Today on the Shrewd Dudes podcast, we are going to talk about a few different things on our open mic night.
So much gravitas.
So much gravitas.
Okay,
We have a double.
Captain Holt.
Yes, I
Captain
know.
Holt.
So, in This Week in Satire, we have a double satire talking about Disney and Ireland. In Ireland, apparently asking if you are... if you ask an immigrant to stop stabbing you, that is now a hate crime. So Ireland is just doing super duper well.
I mean, it would be so offensive to them, like oh, you made me feel bad for stabbing you.
Mm-hmm. Well, but those that would not feel bad for stabbing you would be the Rant of the Week individuals, which is Hamas supporters that became unhinged during a city council meeting. And the Big Brother, where art thou? We are going to discuss about how the White House and YouTube and other organizations work together to suppress COVID-19 and vaccine information/misinformation. So we'll discuss all of that and information about the jibby jabs. And then in the weekly highlight and weekly exposure, we're going to talk about Elon Musk and Henry Kissinger. So all of that and more on the Shrewd Dudes podcast. All right, welcome to the Shrewd Dudes podcast open mic night. So as we begin today, as I have stated in the text, we are going to have another go at doing a Twitter space and have that for our open mic night. And so I'm going to start that up now with the Twitter space.
Oh, he's doing it. It's going to happen.
So on my phone.
He's doing it. He's doing the thing.
I'm doing the thing.
Oh, it's on.
So we're going to try as much as possible to not have sound issues.
You're jinxing it, man. You're going to jinx it.
So November open mic night. I did do some testing before.
You did.
So there are some little things that need to be tweaked out.
Yeah, anybody who remembers Tuesday's debacle.
Oh no, I fixed that. So I'm not going to have stuff crash this time.
Yeah, you had like the green screen of death or something like that.
Okay. So the Twitter space is now open, and my mic is off. So, and I'm going to showcase... Well, I'm not going to showcase this on the screen, but I will show where the Twitter space can be found. So, on our page, which is twitter.com/ShrewdDudesCast, and I'll copy and paste that onto the Twitch page. Then people can join our Twitter space, and I am going to join. So you can click to start listening, and then request to speak, and then
the wonders of
allow to use my microphone. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Then I just have to pick the microphone. So not that one. Manage. I haven't done this on this. There we go. All right. And then I just have to make sure that I'm coming out through the right audio, which I am. So I'm good there. And then we're good. And then Danny, you just have to request authorization to speak. And then I can...
do that?
So you click on the little microphone at the bottom end of the screen.
Okay.
And then I will approve. And then everybody will be muted to start. And then... Oh boy. Turn down the volume.
You or me?
No, that was me. That was definitely me. So then you just need to turn off the microphone. And
You
then
scared your
I'm
kid.
going to mute Discord. And I should be able to hear you as soon as you...
Hi.
There you go. All right, so
Hi,
now you're in the
can you hear
Twitter
me?
space.
Go.
Okay, so we're good there. So now we are now in the Twitter space with our podcast. Curtis, you can talk to mommy about it.
You freaked out your kids.
Well, yeah, I know, Curtis. I know the sound was strange, but that's just because the sound on my phone was loud. So we are now in an active Twitter space. So everything is now right in the world.
Everything's good.
Everything is indeed good.
All is good in the world.
It is good in the world. So things are working. If you wish to join our open mic night, then you are free to. And the sound is not going to be perfect, but we're just going to go with it. And Danny, are you muted?
On where? On Discord or on?
So mute yourself in Discord.
Okay.
And then unmute yourself on Twitter.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you just fine. And
Cool.
of course, this
Okay.
is.
I'm just gonna have to assume. I'm gonna have to assume that you can hear me because normally when we talk on Discord, I can hear myself. But on Twitter Spaces, I'm like,
Yep.
It
is what it is.
But I have no idea. Yep.
Okay, so now we're good to go. This is our open
Cool.
mic night.
Mhm.
And yeah, if people want, I'm just going to retweet and quote, join the live chat. Yeah.
That background's gonna be fun.
Well, the background of
Yeah.
the children, they're going to bed.
Yeah, the kids.
They're going to bed. All right. So we are getting now that everything is set up with Twitter Spaces, and of course, so now how it's going to work. If you have commentary to add via comments or posts, then add them to the Twitch chat, and if you have things to say in the live stream, then you can join our open mic night on
Cool. Sounds good, man.
Twitter Spaces. And is there any sound, like weird sound on your end?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
It sounds
now
like weird, but it's fine.
whenever I get an authorization to, whenever I get an authorization from someone else to speak, I'm going to briefly mute my microphone here, because otherwise we'll get that feedback loop, because then there'll be two microphones that are right next to... Don't know why I'm getting feedback. But anyways. So when we're doing that, then I'm just going to mute this microphone so that I don't have two microphones and there's a loop. So, and if people want to join if people want to join the video chat, then we can sort that out later, but let's just focus on the audio chat for now. Oh, what? Why did that end? What? The Twitter space ended. Very odd.
Sorry, this Twitter space ended by itself?
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I restarted another one. So don't know why it restarted.
Nope, can't hear you at all.
Oh. I muted the Discord.
Yeah.
So, but I'm going back in with... I'm doing another shot of the Twitter space.
Okay, he's gonna...
Well,
he's committing
I have no idea why it ended. I don't get it. It doesn't make any... Like, I didn't say for it to end. It just ended. So...
I'm looking at this right now. It looks like it's still active.
No, I started a new one.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm live on me, and then you just have to rejoin the space.
Sure.
And then I will exit out of the Discord, or I'll mute myself in the Discord.
Cool.
So here we go. So now we are trying attempt number 2 on Twitter Spaces. I do not know why it ended at all.
Okay.
But we are live again. So we're going to roll with that.
You can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know if I can hear you in terms...
I think you can't hear me.
You're not... Yes, I can.
Oh, you can. Okay. Just wasn't sure.
All right. Now I can... Now you are approved to speak in the Twitter space. You're now approved to speak in the Twitter space.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to refresh my camera because I know it's acting up.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, so you're going to have to mute your audio in the Discord.
Okay. Done.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, we're going to try this once more.
You promised me there would be no issues.
Well,
you liar.
I don't know why it ended. I have no idea. Like,
don't make promises you can't keep, Steven. Don't do it.
I don't get it.
That's why you
doesn't make no
never
sense.
Make promises like that. You say you can try.
We're gonna try.
Do or do not. There is no try.
There is no try. There is no try. Well.
Oh, there's no try.
There is no try. Okay, so we're gonna just jump in, and hopefully this works. And if it kicks us out again, then we'll just go back to Discord. Because Elon, you need to fix this. It is ridiculous that you can't run this from your computer.
Everyone's always blaming Elon, the poor guy.
Well, like Twitter. So we're gonna get this is the weekly exposure that we're gonna cover later on. Is Elon being a complete badass?
Yes, he is.
But I'm like, make it so you can run it from your computer. So many people have computers nowadays. Come on, come on, man.
Oh, come on! Don't even think about invoking like that lunatic into this show.
Into this show.
We want to keep it. We want to
keep it appropriate.
Above board here. Above board.
Yes.
Yeah. but there is one thing that Elon has done right, and that is the first thing that we're going to talk about our show today, which is he is making some pretty gnarly transportation vehicles.
He is. Yes. So let's watch that.
Yes. Let's do this, man. Let's do it. This is pretty impressive, actually.
It is.
This is this new
the Cybertruck.
Pickup truck?
The Cybertruck. It's a weird looking truck, but dang, it's powerful.
It looks like the DeLorean on steroids.
Yeah. Now I don't think the people in the Twitter space can actually listen to this, or watch it.
But wait, there's more.
And he beats it. That's to have a quarter mile with a truck towing something in under 11 seconds. That is unreal.
That's impressive.
Absolutely ridiculously unreal.
So he beat a supercar while towing a supercar.
While towing a supercar. It was like, what?
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of that commercial. Very famous commercial for Dodge Ram when they first rolled it out, and it was a guy pulls up to a stoplight, and the guy was like the guy in the sports car. He's like, "Hey man, is that a Hemi?" It's like, yeah, because he's like,
was that a Hemi?
Or something like that. And then they take off the stop line, and the Dodge truck completely destroys him. And he's like, "Oh, are you talking about a Hemi?" Like, yeah, this thing does have a Hemi, like his truck. And it was like, oh, dang. Because before that, it was like Hemis were only in sports cars, but like, nope, not for the Dodge.
Not anymore.
That's what makes me think of, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But this is good too, because one of the big criticisms of electric vehicles, particularly trucks, is that they just do not have the same capacity and capability of regular trucks. Normally, they don't have the towing capacity. They usually can't last anywhere near as much a regular truck, when they're towing something. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the capabilities of this truck can do. Because one of the things people always complain about is like, as soon as you start towing anything with an electric vehicle, it's like, oh, the battery capacity dies. It just dies completely, and it basically can do like a quarter of what it normally can do. So it's not very useful. So good on Elon, good on Tesla.
Yep. Danny disappeared for a second, but we'll get him back. So we will just switch over to the next little story, next little video. And this one, I believe, is from Robbie Starbuck. So this is about Dylan Mulvaney, who is just having a mental breakdown. But that's pretty common for, those who are delusional. So let's watch.
Today wasn't supposed to be a crying day.
It's not.
Why do I always feel like crying? Why do I always feel like crying? Don't do it, Dylan. Don't you dare. No! I feel a little better. Today.
What the frick is wrong with this person? Danny, I'm having some issues hearing you. So, I cannot hear you. Oh, for some reason, you have been demoted to a listener, so I will fix that. So, request to be a speaker. Oh, Danny, you can't hear me. These are problems that we are going to try and solve. Danny, you need to request to be a speaker. And invite you to speak. Yeah, I'm trying to send him a request to speak, but not sure why Daddy's not getting it. Okay, looks like you can speak now. Well, no, you can't. Just cancel invite. Request to speak. I'm not sure exactly why Danny is having this issue, but I'm just going to let him figure that out. So, I'm hoping everybody's having a very good November 30th. If you wish to join our live audio chat, you can join us in our Twitter space, which we are doing right now, and Danny's still trying to figure out because Danny is a little slower with technology and his technology is older. I'm sure Danny can probably hear me because he is a listener. So, if you can hear me, Danny, just give me a nod. Press on the little microphone, and that will give you the request to speak. Yes? It's at the bottom little microphone. If not, then leave and rejoin. There is definitely an option for that. I can show you on. So on, just show you on here. So I can't show you on here. But on the right-hand side of the screen, there will be a little mic. There'll be a little microphone, and so you just have to click on it. Oh, there you go. Okay, you are now approved.
Wait, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. My thing literally just stopped. I couldn't hear you, and I couldn't speak, and pressing the microphone didn't really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
It said I had to settings on my browser, and I'm like, okay, this is very confusing.
It is, yeah. I had to kind of finagle with it, and it's still not perfect. So if we have more issues, then we'll just go back to our regular Discord, because that's old reliable. This is just sort of a new piece of technology which is very prominent. So I was like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Oh no, I'm just checking stuff, and DeSantis just brought out the San Francisco poo map. And I'm like, oh yes. You know the debate is going well when you bring up the San Francisco poo map.
All right, man. Well, let's keep it going. Because,
let's keep it going, indeed.
There's a lot of technical issues here.
Yes, but hopefully that's the end of the technical issues. So once again, if you want to join our Twitter space, then I'll keep an eye on it. And Danny will also keep an eye on listeners. If somebody requests to speak, then I'll check my phone periodically for it.
Okay.
Because I can only approve them on my phone, which is super annoying. So, let's watch this little video from Cloud World.
What is 15 times 4?
15 times 4.
Gosh.
20, 30, 23.
20.
Ouch.
48, 48.
This is so
48.
painful.
It's 48.
I was like 48 before.
If it was addition, I'd be okay.
Right,
If
it's
it's multiplication,
what is 50?
Yeah. Like 15,
man.
like 48 is 12 times 4.
60.
It's 60.
It's super simple math.
Like,
It's not even like hard math.
Here. Curtis, come here, buddy.
Oh, he's gonna test it.
Yeah, I'm gonna test my son live.
He's gonna test that theory.
This is so. All right, so Curtis, say hello. We're gonna give you a math question. So how old are you, buddy?
7.
You're 7 years old.
The 7-year-old
You are in
man.
grade 2. So I'm gonna give you a math question. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What is? These girls are in college. They couldn't answer this question. What is 15 times 4? You can think about it for a little bit.
What's 4
15
15s?
15 times 4. Is it 48? No.
At least he gets that.
Okay. It's okay. You're 7. So.
Yes, an excuse. Yeah.
I know. Well,
oh, he would have had a moment, buddy. Didn't
know,
he?
you would have.
Caves under the pressure.
So, do you have you been thinking about it? Do you know what the answer is? 15 times 4 is okay. So, what's 15 times 2? 15 plus 15 is.
Hey, no, feed him the answers.
No, I'm counting down. Counting down.
Tell him to come back if he comes up with it.
Okay, if you come up with 15 times 4, then come back, buddy. Okay? All right. So, the answer is 60. So we'll see if my son can come up with that answer. Hi, buddy. But let's jump right into this week in satire and see how we do.
Don't worry, three girls couldn't come up with the answer altogether.
Oh yeah, the collective knowledge. That was
collective, brilliance of these two girls, these four girls.
It was terrible.
Oh, it was pretty bad.
Ugh, truly awful. Anyways,
all right, so what we got here? What we got with this thing?
So we got this. This is from the Babylon Bee. So 10 ways Disney plans to save their box office numbers this year. With Disney's latest animated film Wish bombing at the box office because it's communist, the House of Mouse is looking for anything that can be done to correct its box office nosedive this year. Long regarded as an invincible creative force,
not anymore.
Disney has all hands on deck to solve the problem. The Babylon Bee has obtained the following top secret list of moves Disney is planning to turn things around. So we'll do 1, 2, 1, 2.
I'm sure it'll work.
Yeah. Raise movie ticket prices to $300 each, which apparently is still 1/3 of the price of a ticket to Disneyland.
Wow, that's an expensive trip. Yeah,
it is indeed.
That. Yep. Number 2, do an animated remake of live-action remake of an animated original hit. Focus groups indicate people love
this. Is working so well.
We need to do another remake of the Aladdin with Will Smith. We do.
Yeah, that's definitely what we need. There was a was it a Babylon Bee? No, there was a meme that I read, and it was it was Will Smith and he's looking like he's apologizing to Jada, and the caption was, "When you apologize to your wife after she cheats on you," and it's like, ooh, it's like, ooh, you're whipped, bud. You are whipped.
Would be a major cuck right there. Yep. Major cuck, people.
Yes. So 3, add a couple of zeros to the earnings of every movie and hope nobody notices. Cooking the books works for every other industry. Why not Disney?
They already do it. So
they did, yeah. Well, the first one, I know that a lot of people was figuring out pretty quick that they did it for the first Captain Marvel movie. Because it was nobody's going to see this, but yet you're saying this is the #1 movie in the world.
I mean, they already cook. Yeah. They cooked the reviews, and we know that Amazon with the Rings of Power series, they were cooking the books hard. They're it was the best rated, most watched series. Are you sure about that?
Are you sure?
Give us the numbers. No.
All right, liar.
Number 4, thought Walt Disney out of his deep freeze and put him in charge again. He'll know what to do. That reminds me of the scene from The Simpsons, where like Vladimir Lenin. He comes up, is gets communism back together.
Make communism great again.
That's right. That's right.
So number 5, digitally add Baby Yoda to every film and TV series. Baby Yoda makes everything better.
Oh yeah, he can't even talk. That's kind of hard to make that work. All right, number 6. Release the Frozen in theaters again. See it for the 1,000th time, but on the big screen. You know what? That actually might work.
It could.
Because if they do that, your daughters will be like, "Can we go see Frozen?" It's yes.
Yep.
Number 7, man.
Number 7. So call George Lucas and try to sell Star Wars back to him for a profit. Come on, George. You know you want it back. Yeah, don't sell it to George Lucas.
No,
don't sell it to George Lucas. No. There's only one person you can sell Star Wars to now. Who is that?
Jesus? I don't know. The answer does not come to mind.
Okay, you got to be a bigger Star Wars nerd. The only person that Disney would actually sell Star Wars to and have it make money would be if they sold the rights to Star Wars to Dave Filoni.
Dave Filoni?
Dave Filoni. No, Dave Filoni is the guy who
is killing so many of the Star Wars projects. I'm I don't know if he's going to be the
Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni is the guy behind. He's the guy behind the idea behind the Mandalorian. He's the guy behind the Clone Wars. He's the guy behind Rebels. It's basically the Filoniverse.
I don't know.
And yes, there have been
failed lately.
It has been some misses lately.
Yeah.
There have been some my favorite Star Wars content ever since Rogue One was Andor. Andor was amazing.
Everyone loved Andor.
I was telling my coworker about it, and he's like, "Star Wars is gritty?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Star Wars is gritty. It's awesome."
Yeah, it was pretty good actually. I like that. That Andor reminded me a lot of Rogue One, which is my favorite movie after Disney took over.
Yeah,
which is why I liked it. It was pretty good.
Like I didn't like it at first because it was of course really slow, but once it got going,
long time to get going. Yeah,
it was super solid.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good.
It did work out pretty well. But let's continue. So number 8.
That's not you or me?
It's you, man.
Oh, it's me. Okay, sorry. Number 8, sell raffle tickets to let one lucky fan slap Rian Johnson. You'll sell millions of them.
Yep.
That actually buys up a lot.
You can also sell raffle tickets to go up to Daisy Ridley and see your character is a sham.
Well, I would smack Rian Johnson in the face.
Oh yeah, much harder than
Daisy
Ridley.
Daisy Ridley in the back of the head. I'd be like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Stop trying to make Rey a thing. Rey is not a thing.
Yeah, that's right. Rey is not a thing. You are not. Why would you come back to make another series?
Yeah, nobody wants this.
Nobody wants this. Yeah, I'm sorry, girl.
All right, number 9. All executives must now bring their own snacks to their weekly satanic rituals. With as often as the company has these shindigs, they'll make their money back in no time.
That's very true. And number 10, go back to actually making original, entertaining, wholesome movies that are great for the entire family. Yeah, that won't work. No, it's all over.
Yeah, they have
you
no
guys
choice.
Have lost. Yeah, that's right. It's all over.
Yeah, but speaking of things that are all over, let's talk about Ireland. So, the Babylon Bee again. Ireland declares asking an immigrant to stop stabbing you a hate crime.
Oh, it's they got to stop. It's getting out of control.
Yes, Ireland Prime Minister Leo Varadkar announced that under the nation's new hate speech laws, asking an immigrant to stop stabbing you will now be considered a hate crime. Oh, I think Curtis has the answer now. What is it, buddy?
Oh, he does.
60. Good job.
Whoa, killed it.
All right. Now you just got to make sure, like, now as you get better at math, then you just have to be, like, Curtis.
I know.
You asked Daddy a math question.
100 times
100.
3.
100 times 3?
Yeah.
Well, anything times 100 is just that number plus 2 zeros, so it's 300, buddy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good night, Curtis. I love them.
That's smart. It's like, Daddy, you're so smart.
Yeah, well, Daddy was pretty good at grade school math. Okay. Enough dancing. Time to go to bed. All right. So we will not tolerate racist slurs such as, "Please stop stabbing me. I'm dying." This sort of hate has no home here in Ireland, said Varadkar. The vile xenophobic backlash against people stabbing people ends today. According to sources, the new hate speech law will require those being stabbed to keep their eyes closed so as not to develop any sort of prejudice against the attacker. In addition to outlawing whining about being stabbed, the law will also apply to protesting about someone stabbing children. If a person's culture dictates they need to stab someone from Irish culture, who are we to say which culture is right? Asking people to assimilate into a non-stabbing culture is xenophobia at its absolute worst.
Oh, wow.
It's
people,
just
they're
awful.
So progressive. So brave, so beautiful.
Yeah, so beautiful, so brave. Citizens across Ireland have debated the merits of the new law. However, no one outside of Ireland could understand a single word of what is said. Famed mixed martial artist Conor McGregor has become the voice of those opposed to the dystopian government overreach, openly defying the Prime Minister to arrest him. Or defying the Prime Minister to arrest him. Irish police had purportedly attempted to arrest McGregor, but McGregor eluded capture by doing his little weird billionaire strut. Like Publishing Time, the Prime Minister announced for the St. Patrick's Day the government will hand out stickers to citizens reading, "Kill me, I'm Irish."
I will say this, McGregor has a lot of FU money.
He does. He has a lot of FU money and a lot of F around money.
It's true, it's true. But
so,
the important takeaway from this is, you need to take your stabbing and like it.
It's a pass.
That's right.
That's right.
It's I don't know. I don't know what these people are thinking, that they have no idea how hurtful, how incredibly hurtful it is to be stabbing somebody and have somebody tell you to stop. It's like, whoa, stop moralizing. Super rude. Come on. I'm trying to stab in peace and you're just getting in my way. What the crap, man? What the crap? People they're just, it's a peaceful stabbing. It's a love stabbing. It's what it is.
Oh my gosh.
love Trump's hate. It's like they're shouting as they're stabbing you. Love Trump's hate. Love Trump's hate.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I mean,
Love
at least they're
Trump's hate.
consistent. They got to stay consistent. People around them are like, stop yelling.
Don't
You're making him feel bad.
Is Danny just really loud?
Am I?
I can't.
Or is
I
he
unfortunately
talking about
cannot control the volume in Twitter Spaces. So
No. I think he's talking about like screaming as the victim.
oh yes,
Okay.
don't scream. Talking about the law.
Yeah, he's
yes,
talking about the law. Yeah. That's what
So,
he's talking about.
yeah.
See, someone's paying attention.
I
like
apologize.
Steven.
I apologize. I'm just trying to follow along. So
Yeah.
this
Don't
is of
ever try
course
to stab
for
Steven, 'cause he will
for
be
Yeg
distracted.
Mayhem, for our friend up in Edmonton.
Yeah. YG.
Yes, you can also join our Twitter space if you wish to speak. Then, of course, you can send a request up there.
That's right.
And yeah, we hope to have a lively discussion in the Twitter space. This is the first time we're going to try and use it, or at
Well,
least
this will be
the
interesting
first
with
time
the
that
Hamas-
it's actually
Hamas
working.
story.
So yes, do the Hamas story in the Twitter space. That'll be fun.
Mhm.
Born and raised in Mill Hoods. Is it Mill Hoods or Mill Woods? Because I've been in the Mill Woods area.
That's Millhouse's neighborhood. That's where he's from.
Millhouse's neighborhood.
Everything's coming out Millhouse.
Yep. All right. So Hamas
For those
supporters
who know
go
The
unhinged.
Simpsons, they get that joke.
Yes. Over a city council resolution condemning the terrorist group. Of all the ridiculous arguments made by members of the anti-Israel lobby, the most absurd were on full display during a city council meeting in Oakland, California.
Did you do the stinger?
Oh, I did not. I apologize.
Oh my goodness! I can't believe, Steven, you're like totally out
Red
of
alert.
Like so, like loving you right now.
Well, if we were in Ireland, then we'd already be under arrest.
That's right. Just for even possessing it. You know what I was thinking? Just for a quick side note.
Mhm.
If you were in Ireland and like the ultimate like show of like defiance would be like to watch the movie we're watching tomorrow, the Lady Ballers, and have it on your phone. They're like it's like, do you have some offensive content on your phone? Would you like to see? Like, no, we don't want to see it. No.
See, I was
No,
actually so our friend Thomas came over last night and I was showing him the trailer and he's like,
Oh, nice.
"This looks awful." Because and I'm like, "But it's satire." And he's like, "I know, but even thinking about it is obscene." I'm like, it's true.
It hurts his brain.
Yeah. Well, I can show it to you later, buddy, but you need to go to bed.
But it's just, it actually, like, even the way that the trailer, did you notice the trailer was a really well done trailer? Like, that's like professional, like, comedy movies.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
the way that they set up all the time, the comedic timing of the trailer was pretty impressive.
It was very impressive.
Yeah.
So, and like, I hope they have a longer segment during the actual film about like him living out his like
True self.
girls' school baseball. That was both horrible and hilarious to watch.
It was too funny.
It was
It's
like,
just like,
oh no,
it's slapsticks. Like, it's slapstick, but it's also like,
mm-hmm.
dang, that is funny slapstick.
It's funny slapstick.
One of the few times you actually like
Yeah.
laugh your head off, like watching girls get beat up.
Yes,
Seriously,
because
I mean,
it's
that's
calling
literally-
out how awful it is.
That's literally the joke. It's like,
If
this
it,
is
if
horrible.
it
but
was like legitimately being like, oh yeah, like this is a good thing, like men and women's sports, but it's like,
that's right.
oh my gosh.
Ooh, look at that girl got a black guy. Oh, that's hilarious.
See, what I would do if I was like Rebel News
Uh-huh.
is like with David Menzies, how he's been like following around these like
the gigantic boobs.
both the gigantic boobs and the guy who plays in like the women's rugby women's rugby league.
Yeah.
I would just have
that
like the
loser.
key moments of like the men just bashing the women, and just have like a highlight reel from that movie, and just
That was
having it
slow
playing
motion.
on like the billboard truck, and just
slow
like
motion.
driving laps in slow motion around the field.
That would be pretty good. That would.
So Adam Seuss, you know what to do.
That's our pitch.
Yeah, that's our pitch.
All right, so
let's continue.
Speaking of pitches, let's talk
Yes.
about what they're saying here.
So, statements made by those of the pro-Hamas persuasion inadvertently revealed that these people are less concerned with the plight of the Palestinians than they are with their Jew hatred. The city council was considering a resolution to demand the release of the Israeli hostages that Hamas kidnapped during its surprise attack on October 7th and the restoration of critical infrastructure in the Gaza Strip. When one member of the city council suggested including a line condemning Hamas as a terrorist organization, the far leftist pro-Hamas folks went ballistic in their effort to defend the group. One individual insisted that rightly characterizing Hamas as a terror group is ridiculous, racist, and plays into genocidal propaganda. So let's just watch the video.
Watch some of those people.
Yeah,
like
so
I cannot.
I don't
these
believe
people. I cannot
that if you
believe
were
it.
listening in the Twitter space that you could hear the video.
What, you can't? What?
No, they cannot.
Can you hear it if you're listening on Twitter? On Twitch?
Yes, because Twitch is the video, because that's through my recording software. Twitter, I'm just like trying to this is two different things working at once.
So if they're listening on Twitch, can they hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're listening on Twitch, then watch over there. If you're on Twitter, then go over to Twitch. If you're on Twitch, then stay put. You're doing the right thing. So let's go.
There's not been beheadings of babies and rapings. Israel
Yes, there
murdered
have.
their own people on October 7th.
Lie.
Calling Hamas a terrorist organization is ridiculous,
Nope.
racist, and plays into genocidal propaganda that
Stupid
is
white
led by
lady.
media, and that we should be doing everything possible to
The
combat.
fact that she's
I
wearing a
support the right of
mask
Palestinians to
makes her
resist occupation,
so much dumber.
including through Hamas, the armed wing of the unified Palestinian resistance.
My
As
goodness.
an Arab,
Oh,
asking
lovely.
with this context to condemn Hamas is very anti-Arab racist.
The notion
Oh,
that
it
this
is,
is a
it
massacre
is.
of Jews is a fabricated narrative.
Oh,
Many
is
of
it
those
now?
killed on October 7th.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
Your
including
time is
children,
up.
were
Get
killed
out of
by
here.
An amendment condemning
Oh!
Hamas is bald propaganda meant to.
Thank you. Your time is up.
To hear them
Your time
complain
is up,
about
people.
Hamas violence is like listening to a wife beater complain when his wife finally stands up and fights back.
Question.
Oh, is
Did
that
anyone
it?
else notice that those who oppose this resolution are old white supremacists?
There's been a lot of atrocity propaganda ranging
Oh
from
my
claims
gosh.
of beheaded babies to mass rape.
Hamas is not a terrorist organization just because the U.S. and Israel deems it so. Hamas
Oh,
is a
okay, good to know.
resistance organization that is fighting for the liberation of Palestinian people and their land.
Mm.
My goodness. This
Yeah.
is such BS.
Like the amount of like false statements to nothing. Like the problem here is like, okay, I'm not going to call this misinformation or disinformation because those are BS terms created by PR people to try to like condemn it, try to like say that we need censorship in order to control it. That I don't believe those, but they are spreading, or every one of the statements and claims those people made is complete BS. Totally, like complete, Okay, so I'll give you some examples of the things that they like. The lady at the beginning, I think she was the worst. She actually said like, nope, there's not been beheadings of babies and rapings. Nope, that is like demonstrably false. There's obviously been rapings. That's not even in dispute. And the beheadings of babies, that has been like what they want and what these people are trying to do. It's like, well, we don't have any like graphic videos and pictures of like these dead babies who like have their head chopped off. I'm like, no, but we do have like the actual like reports from officials who went to the sites and saw these dead babies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, to ask to see dead beheaded babies, it's pretty grim.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of thing that they're kind
Well,
of
like
advocating.
this exactly
it's
reminds me
nasty.
of the guy that went, like we were talking during the Ben Shapiro event, of the guy that came up and be like, oh, like how bad is it that you have to give an AI image? And it's like, no, you should take your mask off so that nobody should hire you because you're a complete idiot.
Yes.
And so everybody who presented themselves at that event, it's like, nope, nobody should hire you because not only you are a complete idiot, but you are justifying mass slaughter. And yes, Yeg Mayhem, they refuse to listen to anyone from any valid news source. That is basically, they're only listening to essentially Al Jazeera and what, the Young Turks?
Well, like several episodes ago, we had a guy who was like a pro-Hamas guy and all that kind of stuff. And he was sharing some of these kind of similar views, very similar to this. But one of the things that they always do, and I noticed this, very, very common, is the second you start saying like, nope, that's wrong. The hospital was not actually like bombed by Israel. It was bombed by Hamas and all that. And they're like, you're just being brainwashed by by Western media. I'm like, okay, on that, if you're going to go with that attack or that approach, I'm like, one can very easily say you're being totally brainwashed by left-wing media and pro-Hamas sources. I'm like, if you're just going to say, like, well, you're brainwashed, I'm like, well, by that logic, so are you. Congratulations. like it's not hard. I was listening to somebody who was like debating with somebody who's pro-life, like a pro-life woman or two of them, and like you could see very clearly there's two things that happen with people like this. One, they have a vested interest in having this be true. Okay, that means that they base everything that they will accept. They will automatically, without any scrutiny, reject anything that goes against what they want to be true, and they will uncritically and without any skepticism accept anything that supports their view. So that right away that they're working with a vested interest. Second, they have confirmation bias on steroids. Like, oh, that lie helps my case, so I'm just going to believe it, like, blindly without any kind of scrutiny, whatever. Like, it's sad. You see people like that actually do this. Like, well, that data point completely doesn't work for me, so I'm just going to reject it. Why? Because I don't like it. Because it's devastating to my case. As Jim Carrey would say in like Liar Liar. Objection. On what grounds? Because it's devastating to my case.
Devastating. Proves me wrong.
Proves me wrong. You can't have that.
Yeah, you can never have that.
Oh, my favorite is that it's the same response. Do you notice it, Stephen? Like when people ask the iconic question, "What is a woman?" Everyone always responds like, well, that's just like a hateful thing, or like they try to find like these clever ways of dodging the question because they know they can't answer it honestly. So they try to find clever, well, that's just like a reductionistic approach. I'm like, okay, that's a definition. So I'm not sure how that's reductionistic. Like, yeah, you're racist, and like you're transphobic and all that kind of stuff. Here, they're trying to avoid the obvious question of, will you condemn Hamas? And they're like, no, because what really happens here, these people are evil. They are saying, oh, they know. Okay, so they know that Hamas did horrible things. It's undeniable, but it's a good thing. It's like Bernie Sanders. It's like, oh, well, they have bread lines in Venezuela. That's a good thing. It's like, well, these people are like literally like hunted down people and shot them and murdered them in cold blood. That's a good thing. That could not be a good thing. Oh, because they're victims. They're the victims. It's like the Irish, stabbers. It's but they're the victims. The person stabbing that poor little pregnant lady over there, he's a victim. Yeah, he's a victim because he's oppressed. As she's like bathing in her blood. I'm like, oh, lovely. So the idea that these people exist, we know that these people exist. When ISIS was running around like crazy in the Middle East, people were rightly disturbed, rightly so. But while we knew that there was people out there that were disturbed by what ISIS was doing, that were supporting it, they were not mainstream. These were not people that are willing to state their opinions online because it was so unpopular. But right now we're seeing ISIS 2.0, and now you're having people in public saying oh no, I agree with the mass murdering genocidal maniacs who went around filming their rape and murder and attack on innocent civilians and all that. That's what's different. The fact that we have so many people who are willing to say it out loud. That's what's crazy. Yeah, I don't know what you think about this whole thing, Stephen.
Oh no, the left has just been a cesspool of so much of what's wrong in society, and yet they try and promote it. We're gonna, of course, be talking about the debate later on, and they'll be faced with facts, and then they'll look at the page and then be like, okay, before you give it to them, be like, okay, this is a valid source, right? And they're like, yeah, it's a valid source, and they look at it and they're like, this one's wrong for some reason.
Actually, it's invalid.
I said it's invalid.
My case!
Exactly. It's so absolutely insane. But it's just how it is. And unfortunately, this is what the deep state wants to prevent. They do not want you to be able to present your facts, to present your argument. They want you to be silenced, and so that only one point of view can be presented. And that's exactly what we're going to be discussing in Big Brother, Where Art Thou?
Nice to solve.
Oh, I know. I was like, haha, I know how to do this transition.
I don't know if you know what actually the quote is. I know it's very, very switched from like the backgrounds, like John Candy's like nice to solve.
All right, so White House works with YouTube to censor COVID-19 and Jibby Jab misinformation. House Judiciary Committee. If you're wondering why we say Jibby Jab, it's because big tech will censor.
To avoid censorship.
Yeah, to avoid censorship with the V word. So, Biden administration worked together with employees of Google owned YouTube in 2021 to target alleged misinformation relating to the COVID-19 virus and its Jibby Jabs, according to the documents obtained by Fox Business. Documents acquired through a source close to the House Judiciary Committee reveal a level of correspondence previously unknown to the American public as President Biden and his aides sought to promote coronavirus Jibby Jabs in efforts to quell the raging pandemic. The campaign was led by former White House Director of Digital Strategy Rob Flaherty, who has since left the administration to help run Biden's 2024 re-election campaign as a deputy campaign manager. Flaherty emailed Google team members in April 2021 to connect about the work you're doing to combat Jibby Jab hesitancy, but also crack down on Jibby Jab misinformation. So this is very similar to what the FBI and the White House was trying to do with COVID and the Jibby Jabs with Twitter, now known as X.
Twitter, like the Twitter
files revealed this 100%. So now
it was
this is just
undeniable
coming. Well, yeah, and now it's coming to light that they weren't just doing it with the Twitter files; that they were doing it with a whole bunch of different organizations and big tech entities, and it's absolutely undeniable that these individuals are trying to dictate what we see and what we hear. Now, of course, we know this in Canada because the Canadian government passed a law that news cannot be shared on social media.
Yep.
Like, if you want to get news in Canada, you either have to go to the news website itself, or you go to a page like ours, or you actually have to go to Twitter/X because Elon just doesn't care. So, once again, as we say almost every week, all hail Elon.
Wait, hold on. Just a really quick note. So somebody on the Twitch chat, thinking Sabercat. By the way, great name, by the way. I like that.
Yes.
He said, dude, if you think bleach up your nose is good, you shouldn't have the internet. I'm like, well, I will agree with that sentiment because, like, yeah, you're right. Like, you shouldn't have you're not smart enough to be on the internet. However, here's one thing I will say is that particularly the politicians who play the game, and these are the people who know they're lying, who know they're trying to manipulate and lie to you, but they do it anyways. One feature that they have is that they treat the public, the general public, like they're idiots. They treat them like children, which is why they use, like the story says, misinformation is basically saying you're too stupid to figure this out on your own. That's why you need us to tell you what you can and cannot see, because you're like children. You're too dumb to figure this out, which is incredibly like insulting to regular people. Like the comment said, yes, absolutely. Everybody knows, everybody knows you don't take bleach up your nose. If you're generally like normal person, that's obvious. And everybody knows that Trump was not saying to take bleach up your nose, and he was not saying to inject yourself with bleach. You're basically believing media manipulation. The worst offenders of the so-called misinformation are the media and the politicians who are basically like professional con artists. What's the difference between the con? Yeah, sorry.
Well, no, like there is. So what the Thinking Sabercat is trying to argue for is that things that are proven harmful, but the problem is that the government has decided what things are beneficial to hear. And the facts be damned. Like, of course, I think you're thinking, Sabercat, you're trying to make some kind of roundabout reference to ivermectin here, I'm assuming.
Yep. But it's the horse paste thing. Yeah, the horse paste.
The horse paste. But this is ivermectin. When you look at the studies, like there are, what is it? There are randomized clinical trials, and there are what's the term for the group of randomized clinical trials?
Talk about like
dang it,
Okay.
meta-analyses. Meta-analyses. So meta-analyses that prove ivermectin works, and this is something that, as of last year, you were not allowed to say on YouTube. You were not allowed to say on Twitter before Elon took over.
Yep.
And this is something, and the reason that they did not want you to promote ivermectin is because ivermectin was already patented and they couldn't make any money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the government deciding what people can hear and what people can see in their day-to-day life,
mm-hmm.
It's like, yes, some people will be deceived by really stupid, really terrible things. I don't doubt that. Some people, there are plenty of people who believe in the flat earth theory. I think they're kind of off their nuts.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we have to be able to give people the level of freedom
mm-hmm.
to be able to read and analyze for themselves. Yes, there are some people that will be deceived, but the majority of people, at least we have to hope this, majority of people are going to do a level of research and come to their own conclusions instead of the government coming to their conclusions for them. Because if the government comes to your conclusions for you, that's just basic brainwashing.
It also is very important. That is the recipe for all sorts of abuses. That's the thing people never realize. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, so during the pandemic, people were not told that. First of all, two things: they weren't told that remdesivir was actually very toxic, and it was very and verifiably true. It was killing more people than it was saving. But people were not. Nobody was allowed to share that. Nobody was allowed to criticize that so-called treatment because the government and the YouTube and everyone else, nobody was allowed to say that. And so, like, thousands of people were injured and hurt irrevocably because nobody was allowed to criticize the approved, the approved treatment. That is how you get that kind of thing. When you have censorship on purpose, then people are not warned properly. Is the assumption at the core is that the government can never do wrong and the government always knows best, and that is a perfect recipe for all sorts of abuses. Secondly, like by the way that you're framing it, because you are framing it, you're framing it that people are too stupid, people are too dumb,
Mm-hmm.
therefore we have to we have to basically curate their content. You know who has people monitor and block content from them? Parents over children. But we're not talking about children, we're talking about fully grown adults.
Yes.
The problem is the core assumption that the Trudeau government does this, the American government does this, and all sorts of governments all over the world are doing the same thing. This is the message that they're saying to the mass populace. You're too stupid to know what's best for you. Therefore, we will have to curate the content that you see, and only we know best. That is an incredible recipe for abuse and for all sorts of problems. The problem is that a lot of people are what's called first-order thinkers. They just see the problem, the immediate problem, but they can't see the implications, the long-term implications of that kind of stuff. So Stephen and I are very much believers that the best way to deal with bad information is to basically expose it and to expose it sunlight. So it's basically sunlight is the best disinfectant. A lot of conservative speakers say this, that bad ideas are best by being exposed. That's why a lot of people like Tim Pool, and I'll finish on this point. Tim Pool he makes a great point on one of my favorite podcasts. He says that he doesn't actually want these pro-Hamas lunatics saying their crazy things. Why? Because it's actually better to expose, when people say that's not happening, no, here's 5 or 10 videos of people actually saying these crazy, insane things, and that is a good way of showing people, there are lunatics out there who believe this, and now you know. That's why we believe that, censorship is not the way.
No, it is not the way. The way is free speech.
This is the
way.
way. No, it's not. It's not.
Ken
it's not the
Paxton.
Way. That's right.
So
let's make our way to
breaking.
Ken Paxton.
Yes, Texas AG Ken Paxton sues Pfizer for Jimmy Jab efficacy misrepresentation, conspiring to censor the vaccines.
Vaccine critics.
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a lawsuit on Thursday against pharmaceutical giant Pfizer for unlawfully misrepresenting the effectiveness of the company's COVID-19 jibby jabs and attempting to censor public discussion of the product.
By the way, can I make a quick point before
Yes,
you
of
move
course.
on? I'll give you some examples of that, just because I don't know if they're going to mention them here. One, there was a very public video that came out in I think of the EU, where one of the members asked the Pfizer executive point blank, it was like, "Did you know beforehand that this vaccine was not going to prevent transmission of the virus?" Like, "Oh yeah, we knew that. We knew beforehand that was not going to happen." And yet they said it would right out of the gate. Because why? Because that helps their profits, and because they don't want to they wanted to lie because it's better for their product. That is patently a like an absolutely like monstrous kind of like thing that they shouldn't have done. Secondly, there have been videos that you and I have featured in the past that have shown demonstrably that their own like their own studies, the things that they were basing, everyone was basing the efficacy of 95% efficacy, that those were absolutely like undeniably manipulated and totally falsified on purpose. So again, where are the consequences for that?
Yeah. Now, what you're saying, Thinking Sabercat, so you can make a claim without evidence. If you make a claim without evidence and that person is harmed, then yes, that is libel, especially if it's a deliberately false claim. Like to your kind of line there about saying that you may think that Donald Trump Jr. is gay. So you can, of course, phrase it in such a way. So you can say, in my opinion, Donald Trump Jr. is gay. You can say that without any threat of libel, of lawsuit, of anything. And that's totally defended under free speech. And so is anybody defending to the opposite. If you are making a claim, and especially one that is a defamatory claim that injures that person's reputation, then that becomes a case because you're actually harming that individual. So I think like one of the only cases that I've seen, there was the case about Naheed Nendry and Ezra Levans, and that actually did go to court. And the courts, of course, sided with Naheed Nendry because the courts here are corrupt. But that's beside the point.
Yeah. By the way, free speech is designed, and like the whole intention of it is to protect you from government abuses.
Yes.
That is really what free speech is. The people who are most adamant about like asking and calling for free speech or for free speech to be censored are the people who have almost like an oversized and almost like they have way too much confidence in the government. They literally believe that your government is good and they're benevolent, and that for the most part they get things right. But anybody who's watched honestly, like like with proper skepticism, how the governments of the world, including Canada and the United States, acted during COVID, if you really believe that the government is like absolutely benevolent, then there's something wrong with your critical analysis. There's not something wrong with the opposition to censorship. I will say that. But let's continue with the story.
Yeah, somebody responded to my Twitter post to be like, "This is how you get over-the-counter ivermectin," and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool."
Good to know.
Very good to know.
By the way, one thing that like people that never touch on, ivermectin was proven.
Yes.
Was proven to work against this kind of infection. Fauci himself admitted it. Way back, what was it, like 2008, like back when they were talking about it, there was already documentation that said Fauci was fully aware that ivermectin and what was the other one? There was like the other one that was thank you, hydroxychloroquine. They knew long before, years before COVID ever came out, that those two medications had been proven to be very effective against those diseases, which is why they pretty much banned them right out of the gate. I'm not even speculating. They said it, and then they're like, "Oh no, this is super dangerous," and all that. And I'm like, You literally said that these things work. So people who say that ivermectin doesn't work, or that it like, you can say that the efficacy is not that great, but you can't say that it's dangerous. It is one of the safest over-the-counter medications in human history. So it's amazing to me. People think that this stuff is like legit. It's like, oh, the government, like, right, ivermectin's bad. I'm like, okay, buddy, okay. Well, like, show me some evidence, and then we'll
then we'll talk.
Then we'll talk. Okay.
Then we'll talk.
Anyway, so go on.
So continuing on. So Pfizer's widespread representation that the jibby jab possessed 95% efficacy against infection was highly misleading from day one. That number was only ever legitimate in a solitary, highly technical, and artificial way.
Yeah.
Second point, FDA's publications indicate relative risk reduction is a misleading statistic that unduly influences consumer choice. That's also true.
Yep. True.
Relied on clinical data from a span of 2 months, and with 17,000 people placebo patients, only 162 got the jibby jab. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's
like,
crazy
you
stuff.
can note a whole bunch of really, really questionable things that Pfizer did involving the jibby jabs.
All the way through. It was
and everything that has been done in a whole bunch of different tests since. And those that continue to defend the jibby jabs and their application, especially like giving these to children.
Yeah.
Like anybody that's suggesting
and
to
pregnant
give
ladies.
these. Oh yeah, I got actually quite upset because a friend of mine was like, "Oh yeah, like we just booked in to get our shots," and I'm like, "But your wife is pregnant," and they're like, "We would prefer not to discuss this," and I'm like, "Well, would you prefer to discuss it like after you suffer a potentially harmful side effect to your child
or a miscarriage?"
And they're like,
very common.
"You're being very inappropriate," and I'm like, "Actually, I am like advocating for your own well-being because they haven't done adequate tests on this. Like, you are the test."
Yes, you are the experiment.
And they're like, and then they blocked me. And I'm like, literally,
yeah.
I'm just asking you to like think about what you're doing because it could harm your kid.
Consider...
And that's even too much. Oh man, it's just so troubling sometimes.
Yeah, and the thing is like that. People don't realize, like, what a completely unusual thing. Like everything with people think like that. Oh, this is normal. I'm like, the lockdowns were nobody had ever tried lockdowns like this ever in human history. They're like, oh, it's proven to work. I'm like, no, it's never been done. How can it be proven to work? Same thing with the jibby jabs. That was the first time a jab of this kind was approved in the time frame that it was approved in. Never before in human history had they approved a massive rollout of something like this, this quickly. And people were like, "Oh, I'm sure it's fine." I'm like, how can you know? It's like 5 years for any other vaccine, but no. This one's like less than a year. Oh, we're good. It's all good. Not only it's all good, but like, oh, we can force you to take this highly experimental, totally like unproven and untested thing based on like trust us. I'm like, it's unbelievable. So yeah, I'm glad that this happened. By the way, Stephen, did you hear about the National Citizens Inquiry that came out recently? Yeah. So they basically it was a grassroots citizen-led inquiry in Canada, and their conclusions basically like said that like there were so many abuses in the Canadian system, including how they rolled out the lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. I encourage you to go check that out because the abuses that were done over COVID are like unbelievable. It's like the fact that people got away with some of this crap. It's unbelievable. People should be in jail. Like so many people should be in jail right now over what happened during COVID.
Oh yeah.
But it's unbelievable that they're not. Like this should be one of the most shocking times in like human history. My goodness.
Yep, it's definitely a crazy time to be alive.
Yep.
All right. So let's go to the
last
one.
Final thing there, right?
Yeah, we got one final thing from the Daily Mail, and I'm switching the story even though I don't need to. Now, Massachusetts saying being hit by a wave of white lung pneumonia in children as Ohio County issues similar warning after China and Europe saw surge in cases and hospitalizations. Spike in cases meets the definition of an outbreak. Spread raised fears of an American outbreak and a disease staring through China. So doctors in part of Massachusetts and Ohio are reporting a spike in child pneumonia cases. Warren County, just 30 miles outside Cincinnati, have been 142 pediatric cases of the condition, dubbed white lung syndrome, since August, a figure health officials have described as extremely high. Not only is this above the county average, it also meets the Ohio Department of Health's definition of an outbreak. Meanwhile, in Western Massachusetts, physicians are seeing a whole lot of walking pneumonia, a milder form of the lung condition, which is being caused by a mixture of bacterial and viral infections. So, this is interesting, but
again, like it's something to watch out for because it sounds like they're trying to like at least
trying to bring something back.
They try to test people. They try to prep the public, see how they're going to take it, see if their reception is like good. And they're going to try to push that. So, just we're not sure. It's still in the news, still coming out. There's a good possibility that this is just another pneumonia, and they're trying to make you think like this is like something special. But again, this is like different. It's not novel. It's a pneumonia, and one of the reasons I remember hearing somebody analyzing it last week, why it might be surging in China is because China abuses their antibiotics to the point where like a lot of people over there they've developed bacterial resistant strains or strains that aren't hurt by antibiotics. So that might be the reason. That's one thing that people should should definitely consider.
Yeah, so interesting point by the Thinking Saber Cat. The problem with that line of thinking in terms of like addressing the idea of cost and distributing ivermectin. So India distributed ivermectin to one of its largest provinces. I believe it was a province of 170 million.
It was a very big case study.
So if India can do that, but the United States can't, but the United States can apparently deliver, what has it now been? Almost 500 million doses of the jibby jabs. It's just not, it doesn't make sense. And like
Logic
comparing the
doesn't work.
cost,
Yeah.
it's because I think it's what, $25 that it costs the government per dose. Whereas,
for the vaccine or for ivermectin?
for jibby jabs, and then for ivermectin, it's like per dose. Yeah, it's like I think it's 30 cents per dosage.
You also have to remember a couple of additional features of the if you're thinking the cost was like too prohibitive, you have to remember the vaccines that they had to be kept at a crazy low temperature.
Yeah, storage was a massive issue.
They also have to be administered by a professional, like somebody who knows how to administer shots. That also adds to the cost. Then you have to add on top of that all the costs of shipping and all these kind of things, right? Whereas like ivermectin is a pill. You can literally what they did in India, they literally handed them out to people en masse. It was not difficult. And so, yeah, the idea that the reason why they didn't do it is because of cost, something like that, that doesn't actually, I call it not plausible. Okay, there's things that are plausible and not plausible. If it was a very difficult to make thing based on like a very difficult to acquire like plant or something like that, then I'd be like, okay, maybe. But ivermectin has been proven to be one of the cheapest drugs to be made.
To be mass produced.
It can really easily be synthesized. You don't have to rely on some extremely rare thing or rare materials or whatever to make it. So yeah, that's not a plausible theory. You'd have to come up with a more plausible theory than that. That's what I would say.
Yep.
But yeah, watch out for this because they've done it before. They might do it again, especially because nobody got punished.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody got punished.
Mm-hmm.
So, and one of those people that did not get punished was involved in a debate tonight. So, in the news that you may have missed, we're going to talk about the news that you may have missed, and one of them is just happened. So it finished while we were doing the stream. I watched the start of it.
Finished?
Well, it finished. So it started at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and it finished at 8:30 p.m. So it finished an hour ago.
Nice.
So now there's a lot of streams that are doing kind of live takes on it.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow, watching all of the analysis. It's everyone's going to be doing it. Ben Shapiro's going to be doing it.
Yeah.
Patrick Bet-David. I'm sure Charlie Kirk, Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, a million people are going to be going over it.
Yeah.
So I'll probably get a good little analysis.
So I watched the first 35 minutes of it.
Yeah.
So from what I saw, it was a lot of, they would present a statistic. So like the first question they had was like, between 2020 and 2022, California lost 500,000 people and Florida gained 500,000 people. And a lot of people from California went to Florida. Why do you say this is? And DeSantis was like, okay, it's because of this. And it's like, we have this, and we have this, and we have this. And like, this is why we're better than California. This is why we're better than California. And Newsom is just like, this crap is a lie. and then Handy was like, okay, like, are you going to answer the question? And he's like, well, I don't have to. This crap is a lie. And it's like,
by the way,
no.
I listened to a very small snippet. But like one of the examples that Ron DeSantis used, the people that he had talked to that had moved to Florida,
was Newsom's
Newsom's father-in-law.
It was like, my gosh,
oh, dang, that is harsh.
Oh, it was a torching.
It was bad. But by the way, the implications. Yeah, okay. So obviously this is much more interesting because like the Republican debates were like, well, these are dumb. Nobody's going to win. There's not going to affect anything. This was actually like, okay. It was like do or die for DeSantis.
Well, and this is a debate. This is a debate of conservatism versus leftism, because Newsom is kind of the leftist governor. California's adopted a lot of leftist policies. California it simps to China.
Yep.
And it does a lot of things, and it blames a whole lot of their problems on racism and homophobia and all these other things.
Yeah.
Whereas DeSantis is like, okay, well, we're going to lead from a conservative aspect, and we're going to lower taxes, and we're going to fight against wokeness, and we're going to fight against these things which have been slowly crushing America. And then every single one of Newsom's points, it was like, no, you just made that up. Like there was a point about COVID deaths, and he's like, well, this statistic is wrong. It's like, okay, well, what are the actual statistics? And he's like, well, I don't know the actual statistics. It's like, what? You can't just make up claims on the fly. It was just a joke. Oh man, I was kicking myself just watching this. My goodness, like this guy does not know how to present himself, or at least he knows how to present himself, but then he knows how to lie really well, but he doesn't know how to respond when he's called out for it.
Oh yeah.
And so I was enjoying it so much.
Interesting comment here by Sid Rickard. You think DeSantis is? I think DeSantis is just too weird to be president. Also, too short as a president. Okay, the fact that he's bringing that up shows how effective that criticism of Ron DeSantis has been.
Effective.
And how effective isn't like
there was the best response to that.
It's effective. It's effective because people say that and they're like, "Oh, everyone knows what you're talking about." I'm like, yep. It's just. Something sticks or something doesn't stick.
Well,
this is stuck. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
The best response to that was somebody asked that to him, and DeSantis was like, "I'd wear heels on my head if Trump would show up." He's just like, "I don't care what I look like as long as Trump shows up and defends his record."
Yeah,
because my campaign is not about appearance.
I don't know about that, but anyways. But the big thing is, like, Newsom is kind of like being portrayed. By the way, since we're doing a lot of like talk on this one, maybe it might be a good idea to turn up the music.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, just because I'm thinking, I'm like, it's not helping.
It's a little distracting.
Yeah, but Newsom is kind of like
he's the shadow candidate.
Everyone believes, like most political commentators and observers are basically saying, if there's let's give a list. Who are the most likely candidates for like running for the Democrat nomination if it's not Biden? Obviously, like Kamala Harris is out there because she's the vice president. Then there's Gavin Newsom. Then there's some people are even suggesting like Michelle Obama. Could try to pull it off. And but after that, there's not many. And so here's the trick. Gavin Newsom clearly is acting. He constantly says like no, I'm not running, but he's acting like he's preparing to run for president. So this was kind of a big important thing for him. He's like, here's my chance to show the American public that like, oh, I'm presidential. Oh, I can answer good questions. And a lot of people were worried because they're like, well, Gavin Newsom's a bit kind of like a slick car salesman. He's kind of like that guy who can schmooze his way and all that kind of stuff. But some people were actually pointing out that Gavin Newsom he's good in isolation in like controlled tight spaces, but that he's actually not a good debater.
No, he's terrible.
People were saying, they're like, well, people think that he's really good at debating, but like when he's actually like been put on the spot, he didn't actually show himself to be like, like anything special. There's a comedian, like a very famous comedian who I'll see if I can find a clip. But he kind of like he was asking him about immigrants, and like Gavin Newsom was just absolutely floundering. He was floundering. I'm like, Stephen, can you do me a favor since we're talking about this?
Yeah, sure.
Can you bring up like maybe one of the clips of like DeSantis versus Newsom to show, just to show like what this looked like? Because this was interesting.
Yep.
There's like a lot of clips of him.
Yeah. So this is the one that they were talking about. This is the one about the father-in-law.
Budget, lower had made the move from California to Florida, and he was telling me that Florida is much better governed, safer, better budget, lower taxes, all this stuff. And he's really happy with the quality of life. And then he paused and he said, by the way, I'm Gavin Newsom's father-in-law. So we do count Gavin's in-laws as some of the people that have fled California and come to the state of Florida.
So yeah, that was one line. This was another one that was very, very similar. I haven't actually seen this one. This one is them on China.
So we also got the Confucius Institutes out of our universities. China should not be involved in our universities at all. What you need to do is you need to have hard power in the Indo-Pacific to deter China's ambitions. You need to take the economy and we need to decouple from China. We're dependent on them for so many things. And then finally, we need to get serious about their influence in this country. They shouldn't be able to buy farmland anywhere. I can tell you this, I would not go to China and grovel in front of Xi like Gavin Newsom did. He says China's a partner on climate change. China's adding 2 new coal plants every year. China's laughing at us with what they're doing. So yes, they're the #1 threat we face, and we need to take it seriously. And Joe Biden is not doing that. It's just
dang.
Good line.
Newsom's not doing well.
Oh no, like it was just a trouncing. And every time that like Newsom would say something, and then Hannity would be like, we just proved that what you said was false. Like you're basically just looking at the facts and saying nah. And then when DeSantis would say something, that he would just interrupt the whole time. And then I think Hannity eventually said, like, if you keep doing this, we're going to cut your mic. And so we stopped interrupting. Because he's like, you're just not letting the man speak.
So he just didn't do. He couldn't pull off the Trump.
Yeah, no, he couldn't pull it off. Well, and then like he tried to, and then he just wouldn't shut up.
Yeah, and only Trump can pull that off. Like he's really good at that.
Well, like he tried to present information, but insults just don't land as differently. Insults land differently than trying to just openly lie.
I want to show you something. Okay, so I'm going to share this on. I finally found it. I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay, put it on. I'm going to put it on the Twitch chat.
Okay.
This is like This is where like I was like, oh, like he actually wasn't good, like all along. Like this is where I first heard about this. So this is Adam Carolla. Like this was like on the Dan Bongino show.
Yep.
This was an interview. Dan Carolla was like pressuring Gavin Newsom. Like this is like full on interview. Like in like a debate kind of thing. It's at the where is it? The one oh hold on. It was at the 36 second mark. 36 second mark, right there. So this is like Adam Carolla, who's a comedian, and he's pushing back on Gavin Newsom, asking him about immigration. Look at how Gavin Newsom responds, because this shows you that he's never been a good debater. And I was like, oh dang, this guy was bad. Can't even answer a comedian. So here, go for it.
Okay, I'm just trying to refresh it because.
And what turned out?
Okay, here's 40 seconds.
Access to a checking account or an ATM. Things we take for granted. They don't have a check.
What's wrong with them?
And well, because they don't have the resources to sock those things away.
Why do we have them?
A lot of different reasons, but roughly half those families don't. Where
Why do Armenians have them?
But where they end up is in check cashing places.
But I want to know why those groups. Why those two groups don't have access?
Well, a lot of it just happens to be that we can talk about.
Flawed?
This. No, they're hardly flawed, but they're struggling.
Genetically
flawed. Hardly, not absolutely.
But okay, so do Asians have this problem?
I mean, a lot of communities have. A lot of whites have these problems.
Oh,
but
so that's not just black and Hispanic.
No, but
why did you bring up black and Hispanic?
Because the magnitude is ominous.
But why so many of them?
It just happens to be the magnitude.
That's the way God planned it?
Not at all.
Well, what happened to them?
There are a lot of issues, and that the communities are struggling. A lot
why
of new
are they
immigrants.
Struggling?
A lot of different reasons. Lack of opportunity.
Blacks have been here longer than we've been here.
Well, we can surmise.
What about Asians? They were put in internment camps.
Yeah, in fact, it all initiated out of San Francisco.
All right.
The Chinese Exclusion Act came out.
Are they the check cash? Are they the check cash?
A lot of Asians certainly do.
Oh, so why don't you include them?
The only reason why is the magnitude. Of
there's
the problem.
So many more.
The magnitude and percentage.
But there's no way to figure out how that happened.
We could talk about it. You know what I'm dealing with? I don't want to have a sociological debate.
Sure, why would?
Why would you?
Just stop talking.
No, it was good because he was doing the same thing as what's his name, Pierre Poilievre did with like his famous Apple thing. He's like, like black people are like doing so poorly. Like, well, why is that? Well, it's because like it's just a lot of reasons. Like, well, like what? It's like, well, because like they're like like a lot of like bad things and all that. Like like what kind of bad things? Like the guy evades. He can't make a decent point. He can't defend his position. He uses a lot of like vague language. And whenever you push him on like, give me the details. Where do you get that from? How did you know that's true and all that? He suddenly flounders. So I was like, wow, this guy actually was a bad debater long before this whole thing. And I was like, okay, maybe he actually won't do that well. And so I'm glad to see that he's actually proving that he's actually not what we think he is. He's kind of like what's his name, Kamala Harris, before people actually heard her talk. Like in the Democrat debates, right, Stephen?
Oh yeah, no. When people heard her talk, then it was like, ooh. Like there was a reason that she didn't win a single delegate.
And I think that's good news because I think Gavin Newsom only does well in isolation, not when he's exposed. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so might be good news for conservatives going on forward.
Oh yeah,
so
this could be an interesting boost.
All right, now let's talk about somebody who's good under pressure. Let's talk about Mr. Trump. All right, keep going. Let's go. Here's a Mr. Never Trumper.
Stop laughing.
Here's the Never Trumper person right here.
No, I'm the Over Trumper.
The Never Trumper.
No, I supported him in 2020. You know that as well as I do.
Oh, okay.
There's the new movement. It's Over Trump.
Yeah. Okay. Which means like anybody but Trump, basically, is the new approach. The Ben Shapiro approach. That's the Ben Shapiro approach.
Trump. No.
Yeah, like well, he believes like DeSantis would be better and anybody else would be better than Trump.
Well, Ben Shapiro likes Nikki Haley because Nikki Haley is a personal friend of his.
Sure.
But I don't like Nikki Haley.
But
Nikki Haley is a strong establishment character. I wouldn't vote for her. I wouldn't vote for Ramaswamy. I wouldn't vote. There isn't a single other person on the Republican ticket that I would vote for.
Like other than like who?
Not a single person.
Okay, give me who would you vote for? Like who do you think is first or best?
Well, that's unquestionable.
Obviously, Ron DeSantis.
Yes.
And you think that the second for now would be Trump?
That's
what I'm saying.
I don't even have a second.
Exactly. It's like DeSantis or bust.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm different. I believe that Trump is actually not only a viable candidate, but I think he's the best candidate available.
I just don't want to compromise.
I know. I know your position.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
yes, I've illustrated it many times.
Let's talk about Trump.
Yeah, let's talk about Trump and BLM. So, from Business Insider.
Mm-hmm.
Trump, who's railed against Black Lives Matter for years, now says he'd be very honored to have its support.
Mm-hmm.
Trump said on Wednesday he was very honored to receive support from Black Lives Matter. His remarks stand in stark contrast to his past scathing criticism of the movement. Trump was reacting to an endorsement by an activist said to be the co-founder of a BLM subgroup.
I heard about that.
So he was responding to an interview that Maryland activist Mark Fisher gave to Fox and Friends, during which Fisher expressed support for Trump and condemned the Democrat Party. Fisher was introduced by Fox as a co-founder of Black Lives Matter Rhode Island. Personally, I love the man. I mean, how could you not like the real man? How could you not relate to someone like that? Trump then wrote on Truth Social that he had spoken with Fisher, whom he called a great guy, very honored to have his and BLM support, before claiming to have done more for black people than any other president. And in quotation, Lincoln, an oft-disputed remark that he's regularly made in the last few years. His response stands in stark contrast to his past comments about Black Lives Matter, which he criticized even before he became president and called a symbol of hate.
Mm-hmm.
So, what Trump...
Not surprised this comes from Business Insider.
Yeah. That Trump even has support from Black Lives Matter is being disputed by leaders in the movement. Yada, yada, yada. He stated he was one of the co-founders of BLM. Absolutely not. He was a respected advocate for BLM. That's it. And he was paid, and somewhere he got fired and demoted.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is what it is.
This comes on the heels of something that's really interesting, which, needs to be said, is that Trump is one of the groups that Trump is suddenly getting a massive boost from is the black vote in America. Like, people said, if Biden loses like 20% of the black vote, he's in serious trouble. Like, I think people have said the Democrats can't win the presidency if they lose 20% of the black vote. And I think, from the polls I've been hearing recently, he's already passed that. He's already at 22, maybe 23% of the black vote is actually going to Donald Trump. That's also on top, the Latino votes going to Trump in massive numbers, as well as, believe it or not, a lot of the youth vote, 18 to 18 to 25 or something like that. A lot of them are going to Trump as well. So this is on the heels of that. The idea that the support from the black community for Donald Trump is going to be a major factor in the 2024 election. So definitely keep an eye on that. And I do agree, whether or not his comment is way too bold, I'm I agree. Lincoln definitely did more. Other presidents may have done more, but it's undeniable that Donald Trump did a lot of good for the black community.
I'm not saying he didn't do a lot of good.
Oh, absolutely. That is demonstrably obvious. He did do a lot of amazing stuff.
Yeah. Now, interesting little kind of side note.
Oh, yeah?
So, the line, so very honored. So, if this was said about another group, like this, we both called Black Lives Matter a terror group.
Yep.
So, new quote, very honored to have his and Hamas's support.
His and Hamas's support? Where'd that come from?
No. We both condemned and we both know and acknowledge this publicly that BLM is a terror group. Hamas is also a terror group.
Yeah, but not the same way. I mean, you have to remember, there's you have to be careful of moral equivalencies here. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist group, but not in the same way as Hamas is.
It's not in the same way as Hamas is.
They're nowhere near.
But saying it's I'm glad to have the support of a terror group.
Yeah, but again, that. Yeah, the comparison is a little bit too large. No, it is. It's. I'm just being honest. The compare. If you were making a good comparison, I'd be okay, that's actually a decent comparison. And this one's you're using
the comparison to Hamas. But I'm just saying that, saying that I'm happy to have the support of terrorist groups.
Wait, hold on. I need to clarify. Is Black Lives Matter actually listed as a terror group? Is Black Lives Matter actually listed as a terror group?
Not officially, but he said they are a terror group in the past.
So he called them a terror group.
He called them a terror group.
Okay, but they're not officially a terror group.
No, but then again, the Proud Boys is listed as a terror group.
That's right.
So official listing as a terror group is somewhat irrelevant to this discussion because the
sure,
list
sure.
those
You're trying to point out like the idea of like the hypocritical nature of the endorsement or the statement, or you're trying to point out that it's like the flip-floppy kind of nature of what he's saying or something like that.
Well, I'm more pointing out that if we are like, this is what indicative of what I've been saying for a long time. If someone says that they'll support Trump, then Trump is rah behind them. No matter what their ideology is, what they are, then Trump is like, okay, they're a good guy. And I'm like, that's a huge problem for me. Because I'm like, if you have somebody that is like, to what degree, like if somebody from Hamas was like, I support Trump. That's a terrible accent. But like, I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know if he'd be like, "Yep, I'm glad to have his endorsement." Be like, "What? What the heck?"
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, but like like I said, there are. I don't know why you're laughing. This is like.
Oh no, I'm just laughing because it's just like pebble.
Pebble?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
Oh, just like another pebble in like the bowl.
You think you're making all these like solid state? I'm like I actually like counter most of your like.
Well, you're admitting most of my points though. You're countering them, but you're saying it's like, yeah, you got a point there.
No, I'm giving credit where credit is due. Like I'm actually being like intellectually honest. I'm saying, but I actually did I not point out that one is actually listed as a terror?
Oh no,
group,
like I admit that comparing it to Hamas was a poor argument.
Yeah, because if you're saying like, okay, it's like him saying like like I accept the endorsement from Hamas. That's very different because Hamas is internationally recognized as a terror group. Also, Hamas is actually like fundamentally they are responsible for one of the worst genocidal actions in recent history. So that they're like, yeah, you have to be careful with the comparison because I'm like, yeah, that's not the same comparison. Like BLM is not listed as
they're not.
A terror group, which means that him accepting or at least welcoming endorsement from them is not the same as accepting the endorsement of an actually recognized terror group like Hamas. Now, people may consider them a terror group, but I see what he's doing because what he's doing is he's saying he wants to appeal to as many people as possible. Okay, the people who are already supporting Trump, they will support him no matter what, because they're committed like Trump supporters. But if he welcomes the endorsement of a major of a person that most leftists and most independents maybe think like, oh, this is a decent organization. If he welcomes that is actually going to help him in the general, because it's like, oh, it's like even people like BLM supporters, they believe that Trump is good. It's kind of like the guy that we looked at not long ago, that crazy never Trumper, that the white guy, I forget what his name was, like he's like the ranting and raving guy. And he basically went on Instagram and said like, we're gonna have to choose Trump because he's the only viable choice. Democrats are horrible. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But even that, like, if you're like, if you're gonna use it as an example, be like, well, even somebody like Michael Rappaport supports Trump. How much more in this case? People who are like, oh, like like Trump is the worst. Like black people hate him. It's like, well, there's actually a Black Lives Matter like a lead or co-founder. From like a major Black Lives Matter organization, even he believes that Trump is the best choice. I mean, that's actually really good PR for, like, if you're running for president, because it actually is a good point in your favor.
Well, it's an interesting argument in terms of who would vote for you. But I'll tell you right now, if DeSantis made this point, I'd dump him. I would dump him.
If he welcomed?
If he said, I accept BLM support and I'm glad for it, then I would dump him.
Okay.
Like,
well,
this is
fine. Like,
because what you were saying, you're like, Trump supporters will support him no matter what. My support is conditional, because my support is conditional on this being principles matter.
Okay.
And if the principles are defied, if I have to make excuses for the candidate that I support, then I'm just going to abstain.
Okay.
Because this is the excuse that we have this time, is that Biden is so terrible a candidate, we don't have to compromise. We don't have to choose somebody who's like, well, they're loosely conservative, and like, well, they sort of have a chance of winning, but like Biden is so terrible. It's like, well, because Biden is so terrible, we can actually pick someone who is a true conservative, and we don't have to say, well, I'm holding my nose to support this person because they don't have the same beliefs, they don't have the same ideology, and they're not actually conservative.
Yeah, I see what you're doing. I think, okay, here's the theory. You let me know if you think this is like this works.
Yeah,
you're using the same approach that one would, like, for example, if a church is picking their pastor, you would have one approach, and you're using that same approach of picking a pastor as you use for picking your preferred political leader. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, in this race. Yep.
Yes, I think that those are two separate. The way I approach it is, I'm like, when it comes to picking a pastor or picking like a principal for your school or something like that, I use a different standard than I would use for something like a president. There's a couple reasons for that. Number one, if you're like a part of a church and a church membership, you're choosing a pastor. Like, you can keep looking until you find the right pastor.
Yes, it's
like the search continues. The search continues until you get that right person, and you keep your high standards for that sake, right?
Yep.
But when it comes to political leaders, and particularly for like presidential leaders, you can't use that approach because it's do or die, and the implications of saying, well, I don't like either candidate, so I'm just going to abstain, which is what a lot of like Christian leaders actually did. Like John Piper used that approach. He's like, well, I'm just going to encourage everyone not to vote. Tim Keller used the same approach. He's like, well, it's, choose the one that you think is best. Like, you can't just like discount the Democrat one. I'm like, that doesn't work, because you have to remember, you're not picking the best possible option. You're picking the option between two potential options in the United States election, which means that you have a responsibility to choose who is going to be the one who's going to do the most good for the country. The option isn't who is the perfect candidate that's going to be the most perfect leader, like ever, because there's not an unlimited search. It's, you have two options, and whoever you vote for there will be consequences.
Yes,
to that vote. It's not just like Biden's horrible, so I'm going to settle for Trump. I'm like, no, Trump is the best option if he's the candidate. Him and Biden, Trump is the best option of two available options. That is the way you look at it.
But why are we looking that way now?
If it's Trump versus Biden, Trump is the best available option of the two. If it's DeSantis and Biden, then DeSantis is the best available option of the two. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Like, I'll admit that, like, choosing between Trump and Biden, Trump is better, but you also have to consider that the fallout has long-lasting impact.
What fallout?
Oh, like, so Trump, single term. The end of that single term, the Democrat, the end of the first term, the Democrats held significant control over both houses and the presidency.
At the end of the first term, not at the beginning.
At the end of the first term. Yeah, the beginning was a reaction to Hillary.
Sure.
And so in 2020, there was a reaction to Trump.
Sure.
And the reaction to Trump in 2024 and going forward, and with him saying, it's like, okay, like every other candidate aside from me is useless, is hopeless. They're not like there were many of the Trump wing in today's debate that were actively supporting Newsom.
You mean like are you talking about like what's his name, Hannity?
No. I'm talking about Roger Stone, Laura Loomer. I'm talking about Ali Alexander, otherwise known as Johnny MAGA. I'm talking about like all the popular Trump influencers, including several on Fox News, were like, oh, like Newsom looks like a true leader today.
That was a lot. Like I'd find it amazing if Laura Loomer. I have to see the evidence of that because I know Laura Loomer is a massive Trump supporter.
Mm-hmm.
She actually said like if she described like Newsom as like a true leader, it must have been in the context of like he's a threat, not that he's like he would be great. He would be a great Democrat. I'd have to see the context of those kind of things because I'm like, yeah, that's a big statement to make about like and I don't know. I'd have to see the context because that's important. I'm guessing you're looking for it, but
yeah. And the main thing here is like like one thing that people never take into account when it comes to like these presidential races and all that, they fall into the idea of idealism. Like, it has to be one way or nothing. It's like like the perfect way or bust. And I'm like, no, even people like Patrick Bet-David, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec, a lot of people, they say like people don't think that there's strategy involved in politics. Like a lot of people have actually pointed out that like Ron DeSantis, he kind of took a massive risk running against Trump because Trump is a once in a generation political figure, and he has a massively strong political base, like to the point where like the majority of the Republican Party, like the Republican voter base, supports Trump, and the Republican the RNC is at odds with the majority of the Republican voter base. So Ron DeSantis was already like that. Strategically speaking, it was a very high risk move for him to go directly against a massively popular and a massively influential, what we call it, not incumbent, but basically a person running for re-election, which is what Donald Trump is. So strategy matters, and I think people forget that when it comes to like political campaigns. It's like, okay, you can't say like I want abortion banned. I'm like, well, okay, you can say that if you want to commit political suicide. Do you know that Trump actually that was his running pledge?
Yeah,
in 2016.
It was like that was a strategic approach that he took.
Yes.
Yeah,
he won.
Yes, but you're assuming that that just copy and paste the exact same approach in the second one, which. Like
I'm saying that like his argument is that like campaigning on that kind of policy cannot win when it's already proven that it can.
Well, it won in the first place because you have to remember again the conditions of the first run were different. Nobody thought he would win. People seriously. Nobody thought he would win. They thought he was a joke. Nobody prepared for the possibility that Trump might pull out a win. People were like thinking like 99%. The New York Times said 99% chance that that Hillary's going to win. People were like legitimately shocked when he won, which means nobody was preparing for that possibility. Okay. Which means he can say what he wants because everyone's like, well, he's a joke anyway. Who cares? This is why it actually hurt him in the second election, which was 2020, because at that time, now people took him seriously. Now he's the incumbent, and he followed the same game plan, which is like I'm very pro life and all that kind of stuff, and that ended up like hurting him the second time around strategically.
I'd have to actually look up what he ran on in terms of federal policy because I'm fairly certain his federal policy on abortion, in 2020, was more in terms of like, well, we'll wait and see once we get like if Roe gets overturned. Yeah,
you have to remember like that. That was one of the things that were actually hurting him in the second time. I'm not saying that I agree with the idea that I hate the fact that like just saying you're pro-life hurts you, but it's strategy. It's like, okay, like you have to come up with a strategy.
Well, you have to come up with like you have to find a way to have solid conservative messaging, and that's one of the key problems that the Republicans have had. The Republicans have had, they'll either be exceptionally conservative but have really like an ideology and then have really poor messaging to back it up.
Yeah.
Like they just won't, like when in this recent, what was it, Ohio had that abortion vote. And the Democrats were like, oh, this is a campaign on like, this is taking away your freedoms and this is this and this and this and this.
It's going to hurt women.
It's going to hurt women. So Republicans didn't even like campaign against that. They didn't have a campaign message against it.
No, they did. It was just it was diluted and it was overshadowed by like they had complicated messaging that was not hitting home, and the emotional appeal of the Democrat of the pro-choicers was much
they
more
did have the
powerful.
emotional appeal.
Plus,
sure.
they were outspent like crazy.
They were,
and so it's like, yeah. So the big thing here, look at Canada just for a comparison.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Pierre Poilievre at the beginning. The Justin Trudeau and the Liberals were going hard after Pierre Poilievre and be like, oh, they're going to take away your abortion rights. But they aren't doing that anymore. Why? Because that didn't work.
Yeah.
Why? Because the Pierre Poilievre conservatives, even though their base may have like a very strong pro-life faction, they're not making that they're like, you know what, status quo, we're not going to do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the Liberals have no ammunition on that. They use the fear tactics, but they don't work because the Conservatives are not pushing for that hard, which is why it's no longer a factor.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it was a factor, if Pierre Poilievre was actually taking a strong stance and saying, yeah, we need to actually reform the abortion industry in Canada and make some like common sense, abortion restrictions, my goodness, the Liberals would eat him alive. I'm not saying that it's not possible to make that the case, but it's much more difficult. So I'm not saying that Trump is like his positions currently are ideal, or that even that they're appealing to me personally. But I am saying that he has a solid record on pro-life. I'm not saying I'm like oh yeah, he's perfect. I'm saying that his record is solid. So he's already shown that he has a solid record when it comes to his pro-life accolades. Secondly, I understand what he's doing. He's trying to appeal more to a center audience in order to like eliminate some of his rough edges. Which and let's not forget one major thing that is important. Barack Obama, he ran the first time. He ran as a he didn't support gay marriage.
No,
not until the second time that he actually ran. So the idea that a politician will like temper their actual views on something and will obfuscate and probably back them down a little bit in order to get elected, that is already shown that it works.
Oh yeah.
Barack Obama clearly was very pro gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
That was obvious.
He was.
But he never ran on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea that Trump is now he's more pro-choice than ever. I'm like, well, based on his record, I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. And then secondly, I can understand the strategy of trying to downplay that in order to avoid the obvious, political landmines or minefield that is.
Mm-hmm. I understand the ploy.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it's not necessary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's fine. Strategically speaking, you believe that that's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying yeah, I can understand why he's going that way because the pro-life issue is something that I want to go forward, but I also understand that it's a very difficult issue for Republicans to run on.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they don't have the moral high ground on it, but because it is such a powerful, and the momentum is on the Democrat side on this one in the States.
Of late, yes.
The 2A's issue, that's the momentum is on the Republican side. That's an issue you can run on. But the momentum is not. You
on
can run on 2A. Yeah, you can absolutely run
on the Second Amendment.
Second Amendment.
Okay.
Yeah, you can run on the Second Amendment because that is a winning issue right now for Republicans. They're winning all across the United States.
Mm-hmm.
The momentum is on the Republican side.
Yes.
But you can't run on the abortion issue currently because it is not going in the direction of the Republicans. It's going in the direction of the Democrats.
Well, and I think in terms of the abortion issue, I think there needs to be uniform, very clear messaging in terms of the Republican Party
Absolutely.
and how to battle for life.
Yeah.
While not compromising to a party that wants abortion until birth.
Absolutely, and I think that's I would agree with that. So all I'm saying is that I have to take his pro-life views very much in I'm almost giving them the benefit of the doubt
mm-hmm.
because I know how difficult that issue is to run up. So let's finish on that. But let's go to the next story because we gotta.
Yeah, we do.
Gotta keep moving.
We could talk about this all day, about
Absolutely.
influencers and all that sort of stuff.
All right. Well, let's do an update on somebody else who got who totally got quick
update
improperly thrown under the rug.
Yep. So surprise young Chiefs fan targeted by Deadspin's phony blackface hoax is a Native American. So we covered this.
Yeah,
on
I was
Tuesday.
so shocked. Yeah, well,
another kick in the crotch of the credibility of America's corrupt media has now been confirmed. The youngest KC Chiefs fan, attacked by a so-called sports writer, while only a minor, Holden Armenta found himself as a target of a Monday hit piece penned by Deadspin, who accused the young boy of donning blackface while attending Sunday's matchup between the Chiefs and the Raiders. So we saw the picture on Tuesday, and the headline was the NFL needs to speak out against this. Takes a lot of to disrespect two groups of people at once, but on Sunday afternoon, a KC Chief found a way to hate black people and the Native Americans at the same time. Phillips wrote into true leftist fashion. This, who was it? I think it was Michael Knowles actually described this fairly well. This is Deadspin is pulling a complete Covington with this one.
Yeah, this would be a good Covington example. Yeah,
because this is and it's actually a perceived white kid being blamed as both hating blacks and Native Americans, which is what happened with the Covington Catholic story.
Yeah,
and then of course it's revealed once all the facts come out that the kid is completely on board and actually is on the right. And those who are accusing him and those who were harassing the kid, I don't know if there was anybody at the game harassing him, but in the Covington case, there was both blacks and natives harassing him. So, but this kid is actually from...
not only that, but look what it says. It says, according to the Post, his grandfather, Raul Armenta, who is also Native American, sits on the board of the Chumash tribe in Santa Ynez, California. His actual grandfather is on a Native, American board.
Can't get much more than that.
I'm like,
Yep. Welcome.
This is part of the assumption, right? Well, it's like people always accuse me, well, you can't wear anything Mexican or make Mexican jokes. I'm like, I am Mexican. We're like, what? They're shocked. It's part of the assumption. They just want to make this is rage farming, like we talked about before. So just an update. That kid is completely innocent, and you should definitely support him. Yep. Actually, one thing that somebody said: if you are going to any kind of major sports game of any kind, in solidarity, I would recommend paint your face.
Yeah,
in your team colors.
Well, especially Chiefs fans, there should be a huge amount of what the Kansas City Chiefs should do. The Kansas City Chiefs should give him a press box ticket.
Yeah.
And then they should encourage Kansas City Chiefs fans to paint their face in the same color as this kid.
Absolutely, that would be amazing.
And then it would be this is just a massive screw you to the author that tried to paint him as a racist.
Actually, one thing that would be amazing, in one thing that in hockey, people always throw the white flag, the big circle. That's a big tradition. That came from a very terrible scenario that happened in a hockey game way long ago, and it was transformed into a unifying symbol for a lot of teams all over the NHL. I think it would be amazing if they used that and turned that into a very positive unification symbol for Chiefs fan. Imagine being a Chiefs fan and be we're going to paint our face to basically we're all in this together. We all support our team, and to basically demolish an already disputed and honestly debunked narrative that anybody putting any face paint on their face is automatically doing blackface. That whole smear needs to stop. It's dumb.
Yep.
But good on this kid. I'm glad that things are going his way. Let's talk about Reuters
Russia.
And Russia.
Yes, interesting story. So from Reuters, top Russian court bans LGBTQ movement as extremist. So Russia's Supreme Court ruled on Thursday that LGBT activists should be designated as extremists in a move that representatives of gay and transgender people feel will lead to arrests and prosecutions. A Reuters reporter in court heard it announced that it had approved a request from the Justice Ministry to recognize what is called the International LGBT Social Movement as extremist and to ban its activities. The movement is part of a pattern of increasing restrictions in Russia on expressions of sexual orientation and gender identity, including laws outlining the promotion of non-traditional sexual relations and banning legal or medical changes of gender.
Yeah,
So
I will say this.
This is interesting, and I'm like saying that they're extremist. Like, I don't want to be saying that groups of people, like saying the whole group is extremist is like, well, that's probably a little bit too far. Like those that if an organization is promoting like drag shows for kids, then for sure that's extremist. If they're promoting like porn in schools, definitely extremist. If they're promoting nudity in pride parades, extremist. But then you have organizations that are also inside the LGBT, like Gays for Groomers, that they would also kind of couple in with this.
Yeah.
So I would be more in favor of like, okay, we're gonna, if you are supportive of this, then we will assign something and you will be labeled as an extremist group.
Here's what I would say. Okay. I would say, and this is going to be like a hot take here, like a very spicy hot take here. Okay. 20 years ago, this would not have been seen as a, like, you know, completely revolutionary or even like a controversial thing. 20 years ago, we were fighting against the idea of normalizing, like, you know, homosexuality. That was like the big movement back then. 20 years ago, we were like, oh, that's not something we can like normalize in society. Now it's considered normal, and they've moved the Overton window so far that now we consider like, oh, the only things that are bad or that are wrong are like the drag queen story hour or all these other like, you know, like really, really hyper crazy things and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, I actually like, you know, I will say, I'm not saying Russia good. I'm saying this is a proper, like, you know, like approach. Now, knowing what we know, the reason is because now that we know how the LGBT movement operates, it is imperialist. Okay, it doesn't actually operate by saying like, you know, oh, we just want to be left alone. That was the lie. The lie that we just want to be left alone to be happy and to do our own thing. It was like, no, that was the lie. They are militant and they are ruthless in how they go. Everywhere they go, it's all about conquer and destroy. They're completely intolerant of anybody who defies them or anybody who dissents. Just look at like the way that they treat it. Like remember the baseball team? The baseball team, the Marlins, the Florida Marlins, I think it was. There's a couple players, a couple pitchers that said like, no, we're not going to do the flag, the rainbow flag thing and all that kind of stuff. And people came out and they basically accused them of being the most horrible people on human earth. That's the supposedly more or less crazy, less extreme, like just the pro gay faction, not even the trans faction. Okay. And this is how they operate. So knowing now what we know, I absolutely can understand a country that wants to maintain, like, you know, a country that wants to maintain traditional, orthodox, normal, you know, views about like how society should operate should absolutely, and like, you know, like say that, no, these kind of ideas cannot be and shouldn't be propagated in society because they're harmful not only to families, they're harmful to society as a whole. I would agree with that approach. And I would agree with a society that says like, no, we're not going to go out there and hunt down people who have like desires, like, you know, who desire to have sexual relationship with people of the same sex. We're not going to go hunt down people who want to cross dress, but we're not going to normalize it. We're not going to promote it. And we're definitely not going to allow them to go out there and try to push for this to be done. That's one of the problems with secularism is that they can't take a moral stand. And I'm like, I actually think a society that doesn't promote and normalize this stuff is better society. And biblically speaking, that is not something that should be allowed. So like, I'm like, yeah, in that respect, not calling them extremists. I think that's just a legal maneuver to basically say, like, this kind of advocacy is not allowed. Like, not using, like, I wouldn't use the language of extremists, but I would say like, no, this is not something we're going to normalize or promote in our society. That's my hot take.
Yep. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing we should not normalize or promote in our society would be this story from Breitbart. So freed Thai hostages. Hamas beat Jewish hostages with electric cables.
Yes, that was bad.
What does electric cables mean?
cables that are usually used for like electric production,
like
but they're
wires?
like electric wires, like wires that are usually used for conducting electricity. But I'm guessing they were just handy. Or they
Just
had
to
them
do
there.
meetings. Yep. So
It's
Channel
like
12
you use what
report
you have, right?
noted that Free Thai Hostage said that Jewish hostages were kept in worse conditions than others. The news report is the latest account of torture experienced by the hostages. As Breitbart has reported, Hamas tortured children by forcing them at gunpoint to watch films of atrocities against Israeli civilians, kept some children alone for weeks, and denied adequate food, water, and sunlight to hostages generally. Though some said they were treated well after initial beatings, many were well enough to be released from the hospital shortly after they were transferred to Israel. Many lost weight. Many of the children have shown signs of psychological trauma. Red Cross has not visited the hostages, nor has it transferred medicines and other needed items to them in nearly 8 weeks of captivity.
Yeah.
So, this is not surprising for Hamas.
No, but the surprising is that there's a talking point in the West.
Oh, yeah, there is.
There's a talking point in the West that's saying that these hostages are being treated superhumanely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not true. Like Ben Shapiro addressed this on the show. He's like,
he did.
People are trying to suggest or argue that Hamas is good because look how nicely these terrorists were being, or these hostages were being treated. It's like, well, no, that's actually not true at all. They're being mistreated horribly. And so, yeah, this is just more evidence of that idea. Like, no, all the lies you're being told from the left-wing media, they're just not true.
Yep. All right. So, moving on to another story about Israeli hostages. So, Moment's Israeli hostages Mia Shem, 21, is tearfully reunited with her parents after 7 weeks of hell as Hamas hostages that only ended after she was pushed through a baying mob to gain her release, as Hamas released 6 new hostages.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there a video of this?
I think there is a video, isn't there? Yeah, right there.
This one. No,
oh, no.
That's not it. Like, there's just pictures. Hamas parades 2 female hostages who are horrified by them. This was a video that was highlighted by Ben Shapiro as Palestinians were laughing at the women that were taken hostage. And they were like celebrating that they were taken hostage in the first place.
Dang. And
I'm like, this is why you have, like, I talk to people all the time. And they're like, but the Palestinian civilians. And I'm like, well, but there's a serious problem that these Palestinian civilians grow up from the time they're born, essentially, and they're brainwashed into believing that this is acceptable to do, and that killing the Jews and keeping them hostage and butchering their babies are all totally normal activities. And so when people are like, oh yes, Hamas is a rational force, like they're a rational form of discourse, and they are the armed revolution of the Palestinian liberation. I'm like, this is actually the view of the majority of Palestinians.
Oh, at the very bottom, I think just above that picture, there's a video.
This is her this is her dancing.
No.
The Twitter video?
Hold on. No, like above that picture you had where like the guy wearing like the white hoodie. Right there. Oh no, go down. Right there, yeah.
So this is them parading.
Yeah, parade. Like this is like Hamas parades 2 female hostages. So again, talking about the mistreatment. These are regular
civilians.
And the way that they're mistreated by Hamas.
Yep.
Again, the idea that like the most of the Palestinians are good people, and they're like they're more like Westerners. I'm like,
no, just nonsense.
Not so much.
Just nonsense.
Yeah, you have to be careful too. Like sometimes we can be because most of our sources are usually very pro Israel. We also have to be careful not to that we're getting the right information. But for the most part, I'm just seeing them like no, like it's like it's very easy to see through most of the lies and the things that you're told about these kind of things. By the way, there's a video a little lower down, right after her with the bathing suit.
Yep.
There's a video of a reunion. Thai couple reunited with family after being released from captivity.
This
there.
one? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll switch it up. Oh, what?
Oh. Just imagine that, eh?
Yep.
Believing that you were dead.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like, it's good that she was released, but innocent people held by truly malicious, nasty people.
The thing is, like, here. Anybody who tries to say that this is like a plus for Hamas, I'm like, no, because they didn't do it because they're like, like, oh, out of the goodness of their hearts. They did it because this buys them time.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're doing it. Because, like,
well, and of course, like the ceasefire was only for a few days, and then, well, like I think it was on Ben Shapiro's show yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It was either today or yesterday, and they went into they had two Hamasniks, and they drove towards a bus stop, and then they just started firing on it.
Yeah, I heard about that. That was
and
bad.
It's like, well, this is what happens when you give Hamas time. This is what happens when you lay off the pressure, is that they find more excuses and they find more time to plan and carry out evil activities that are meant to target innocent civilians.
Well, I think this only reinforces the idea. Like, okay, Israel, the people are saying, like, you know what, just stop everything, stop invading, like, just go back to the status quo, and things will be better. It's like, well, there you go, proving that even during the ceasefire, they're still trying to attack Israel. I'm like, well, proves that you haven't learned a thing. It's kind of like if you send a kid to, like, timeout because they were just like, they were being an awful little, like, terror all day. And you're like, you feel bad. You're like, oh, okay. I'm gonna cut your timeout early. And immediately after timeout, he goes straight back and he yanks on his sister's hair and he starts punching people. I'm like, well, you haven't learned anything. Back you go. Like that's what this should be, which is basically the idea that Israel and Hamas, is like Hamas, just continues to demonstrate that they're not going to stop. People who are saying, like, okay, enough is enough, Israel, you need to stop invading Hamas or invading Gaza. I'm like, no, there's no reasonable argument for saying that they need to just stop, because I'm like, no, it's not going to stop. Hamas is going to keep going unless you basically destroy all of their infrastructure and remove all of their leaders and basically take over and stop them. You that's the only way to end this like at least this conflict, is you have to remove the people who are causing it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, continuing on.
Wait, hold on. What did Jen Eric Anomaly?
Yeah, interesting.
You see that comment?
Yeah, I did. So this is the comment. Hypothetically, Israel is a gated community in the surrounding areas filled with Trump supporters and trailer parks. They're going to pass laws to protect the gated community and laws that hurt the surrounding trailer parks, because I'm assuming this is because the Trump supporters aren't considered human, or at least they're considered subhuman by the left.
He's trying to create a hypothetical.
A hypothetical that's more relevant to Americans. It is a little confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But, and as we have been saying, so like those of the people that are joining in the chat, if you want to, like, today is an open mic. If you want to join the chat, you can certainly join the Twitter space, and we would be happy to have a live conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's open to anybody who wants to join, no matter what political position you have. Tonight's the open mic night. It's time for it. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So we await you.
I think Steven's really, really he's like crossing those fingers, be like, come on, do it.
Like just because I have been involved in Twitter Spaces in the past few days, and because like the Twitter Spaces that I've been involved in have like 70 to 200 people,
of course,
and I can join the chat, instantly request to become a speaker, and then have like my 5 to 10 minutes to go back and forth with individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had a conversation last week. with totally random people across the U.S. and talking about how to address how to like be apologetic for Christianity without like being perceived as too judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is a fantastic conversation. So, you know, I just want to have those conversations with people.
No, I got it.
But let's keep going because it's already 10:30.
Yeah.
So let's continue on. So, from the New York Post, New Army vet, 94, kicked out of NYC nursing home to make room for migrants. So, former Army veteran is blasting his Staten Island assisted living home for kicking him out when then cutting a deal to welcome migrants, saying it's not fair he was sent packing. Frank Tamaro was given less than 2 months' notice. He and 53 other seniors would have to move out of Island Shores residences in March and had to make other living arrangements. I felt horrible. Tamaro, a lifelong New Yorker, told Fox News, "It's no joke."
Bless you.
Yeah, that was a powerful one.
Yeah.
He then moved into another facility, but then after he fell, he and his daughter, Barbara, decided that it would be best for him to move in with her and her children, which is exactly what we did with, or my parents did with my grandfather.
Yep.
So it was in her care the family discovered the Island Shores has been converted into a migrant housing, and they would not reopen after another assisted living facility, as they were promised. I don't understand it at all. It's not fair to anybody. So, and of course, this is happening in many major cities across the United States, that these places are being converted into houses for migrants, or like camps for migrants. And on top of that, there are so one of the biggest proponents in terms of the Democrats that was actually speaking out against the migrants was New York Mayor Eric Adams. And now, what was it? The FBI is like actively investigating him.
Yeah, he's getting
and it's like, and then he's like, well, I was going to talk to Biden about like his stance on illegal immigration. And then as soon as the FBI started investigating, he was like, I will no longer be talking to Biden about illegal immigration. And it's like, oh, dang.
I regret my actions.
You said things that they don't want you to say.
That I wasn't in my right mind. Is that what you want me to say? Oh, I mean, yeah.
What did you want me to say?
Like checks notes. I was wrong.
Notes.
I was wrong.
Yep. Just assume they're wrong. It's for the best. But talking about migrants, let's watch this video from Rumble from Fox News, California farm becomes migrant highway.
It was a hoax, and the laptop was real. CNN has finally come around. They've just reported that the border is wide open. CNN sent a crew down to the border near San Diego and visited a guy whose backyard's a migrant highway. The guy's like an illegal alien crossing guard. Even CNN was shocked.
I just have to allow them to go through my property. Where are you from?
Turkey. This is video shot by Brian
Turkey.
Silvas, whose property is up against the U.S.-Mexico border. Silvas wanted to show me where he believes the migrants are crossing the border into his property. As soon as we arrived, we encountered about a dozen walking right in.
It's a pretty simple cross over into the U.S., and like that family, it's not that hard. They just step in and they're here.
Just an hour after we left Silvas's property, a wildlife camera we had set up at the location captured another group of migrants, much larger than the last, entering the U.S.
So our very own stupid son of a border doozy, Bill Melugin, has been reporting this for years. What took CNN so long to figure it out? But not everyone's figured it out.
One common Republican claim is that the U.S. has a, quote, open border under Joe Biden. That is just not true.
And the border is not open. That is
CNN just kind of debunked themselves. Well done, CNN.
Oh, it's not hard to debunk CNN. It's pretty easy these days.
It's oh my gosh. And like it's amazing. It's like it's wide open. People are like literally just walking in, like you know. Sorry?
No, generic anomalies, quote, illegal immigrants should be tossed out of the country. For the really problematic ones, I suggest a catapult.
I would pay to see that. I would totally.
I'm just being reminded of the Monty Python sketch where they throw a cow from a catapult. Oh my gosh, we are just terrible.
I think what they should do. They should create these little tunnels, like little tunnel like things that they go into, and they go in thinking they're going to the States, and they come back out and be like, "What? Back in Mexico? Oh, I'm going back." And it's like come back in Mexico. Ah, man, like just totally fool them, bring them back out and all that. Again, so any illusion that like the border is not open, like it's like you're just not paying attention. Seriously,
they're not.
Now, the problem is
at all.
Here's the question, Stephen, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Why are Western nations committed to open borders? What's the rationale?
The rationale is a voter block, and it's because they can get them here, and because, as we discussed on the show a few weeks ago, voting in these places, especially in more liberal areas that do not require any form of serious identification to vote, you can have a consistent voter block that will support you and your policies because you promised them things. And when you promise people the world, then they're going to support you. Like, what was it? There was a prominent philosopher, and he said that, like, the United States would survive until Congress realizes they could bribe people with their own money. And like here in Canada, we know there have been dozens of attempts to bribe people with their own money. Like that's what a lot of these payments that we receive from the government are bribing us with our own money, and that's why things are so expensive here. And I'm like, dang, stop this. Like, I prefer just to be able to make my own money and not for things to cost 3 times as much as they were 5 years ago.
And anytime I see House of Parliament, when I see Poilievre and Trudeau going at it, like Trudeau's answer to everything is like, "But we're the good guys because look at all the money we're throwing at these problems." It's like, we keep throwing money at things. That means we're good. It's like you're an idiot. like the reason why things are so bad is because you keep wasting so much money. That's like, stop. Somebody take away his credit card, please.
Somebody take away his credit card.
Seriously.
Yeah, I know.
He's already maxed it out like a dozen times.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I was like, people that are totally totally blind to what's going on. They're like, I had one person that was telling me that like the cost of things in Alberta was Daniel Smith's fault. I'm like, how? And be like, oh, is this and this and this? And I'm like, it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that we've tripled the debt in the past 8 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. Why would that have anything to do with that? I'm like, why wouldn't it?
Because they're single-minded. No. First order thinkers. First order thinkers. Yeah. All they can see is the immediate, like, one-to-one relationship. They can't see past the one. It's like, have you thought about the carbon tax? No, that can't be possible.
That can't be having an effect on gas prices.
Increases gas prices, which increases food prices. Like, what? That can't be right. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and I will say that's the other factor. Like the most immediate, like short-term kind of like rationale is they want to get more votes. But believe it or not, the long-term rationale is these people are globalists. And they've bought into the idea that you need to completely destroy the West, destroy your nation in order to be able to create socialism. These people care nothing for their own citizens, which is why they're throwing their own citizens under the bus everywhere you go. People who are locals are being treated like they're the bad guys. Oh, you need to we're destroying your town and putting your kids at risk and creating like an economic disaster for you. But you better shut up and take it. In fact, there's a guy to stab you. You better do it quietly. Yeah. Shut up and take your stabbing.
Well, let's go on to the final things we're going to cover for today. So let's talk about the weekly exposure. Now remember to turn on the
singer.
You weren't expecting this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
No! Oh, it's okay. So,
It grows on you.
How Henry Kissinger shaped the Cold War world. Former
Yeah, by the
Secretary
way-
of State died Wednesday, age 100.
Yeah, he finally gone.
Yeah, so next week's will be filled with remembrance, fulsome appreciations, and harsh criticism of Henry Alfred Kissinger, who died Wednesday at 1 p.m. His prominence is well deserved. The only modern secretaries of state who rank with him are George C. Marshall and Dean Acheson, who constructed the architecture the Cold War contained into the late 1940s. His central achievement was updating the architecture to include China, less as an American ally than a Russian adversary. Until the late 1960s, Washington and Beijing had seen each other as bitter foes, not only because they had fought, yada yada. Kind of kills off, like drifts off there.
Kind of trails off.
It does trail off, and I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to say there, but sure.
What are you trying to pull off here?
So I admit that I do not know a ton about Henry Kissinger.
Mhm.
So I'll just let you kind of take the lead on this one because I haven't done a ton of research into Henry Kissinger.
Well, look, the thing I found the most interesting about Henry Kissinger is that I've never seen such a crazy reaction from Tim Pool when he found Kissinger dead. He was holding back super hard about how much he despised this man. This man apparently, is the architect that pretty much created the problem that is China. He's also the single architect that created the military industrial complex. He's the one that is to thank for America relying on military action overseas in order to boost its economy and to create all this kind of stuff. So the guy is an absolute he is responsible for some of the biggest disasters that we're basically living with today. So so a lot of people see him as a war hawk, a guy who basically cozied up to the foreign dictators, and so the big problem is that he basically forged the very rise and the consequence that we have right now with modern day China. They basically cozied up to them and be like, you guys are okay. We're going to treat you like friends. And now we're paying the consequences for all of his all of his policies and ideas. Even recently, he was in a big conference, and he was actually saying a lot of the things that I did are really, really harmful and hurtful, and maybe I shouldn't have done that as much as I did. So I'm kind of like you. I don't know as much about Kissinger, but I know that he is basically one of the biggest villains of the 20th century. A lot of people who study Kissinger know that he is responsible for some of the most horrible things that America has been doing on a world stage, and he's the mastermind behind a lot of the policies that America has taken. So yeah, definitely not somebody that will have a good legacy in the future. He's somebody who's going to have a very terrible legacy going forward. So he died today. That's kind of why it's a big deal, and that's why it's the exposure of a person that the left will hold up as a hero, but in reality, if you look at his legacy, he is going to be one of the biggest villains of the 20th century in terms of influence and the negative influence that he had, the negative legacy he'll leave behind. So that's what I got to say about Henry Kissinger. Take it away, Stephen.
Well, I don't know anything about the guy, so.
Into the
so generic anomaly. Nixon made a big mistake during his presidency. He looked into the JFK assassination. It would be like a current politician looking into the mysterious deaths of the police officers shortly after J6. Interesting.
Shortly after J6, I think only one of them could have been tied to the J6, but that was a difficult connection to make.
Well,
he had a stroke.
He had a heart attack.
He had a heart attack, but it was long after the January 6th thing, and a lot of people actually say that, well, yeah, but even then, tracing that a direct line, one led to the other, is even more difficult. So, but I see what you're saying. The idea is don't look into what the government's doing because they will hurt you. they will absolutely hurt you.
Yes, they will definitely hurt you.
Do you want
But they've definitely tried with the weekly highlight.
You weren't expecting.
They've definitely tried to hurt Elon Musk. So Elon Musk advertisers boycotting X. Go F yourself.
I love that.
Every time I see this, it just makes me chuckle. So let's just... This one doesn't have the video, but let's just go to Twitter and find the video. Because the Twitter video is super satisfying.
It's so good.
Okay.
Advertising?
Oh, this is actually a great thing because this is from Elon Musk parody account, but it's still great.
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself.
That's awesome.
Yes,
Well
NSFW,
done.
but yes. Well, and like what he's saying, and like he elaborates on this later on in the post, is that those that have abandoned him, those that have choose to dump their advertising support because he's not going after conservatives anymore, because he's allowing free speech. Like the idea that anybody actually believed this Media Matters post and left because of that, they know that the Media Matters post was fake. They just needed to find an excuse to dump X and to publicize the fact that they were dumping X. And they were expecting Elon Musk to kind of come groveling back and be like, "Oh, please, like I'll start banning conservatives if you only come back and advertise with the company again." But they were not expecting him to be like, "No, I don't care. You can take away your advertisement dollars. You can try and make me say whatever you want to make me say, but I'm not going to do it because I have the monetary ability to just say, go F yourselves. We're going to do what we want. We're going to actually have a platform that supports free speech." And that's why, like, a lot of people attack me for it, but Elon Musk has made Twitter into what it was supposed to be, which is the public space. Twitter is where actual engagements and actual, like, discussion happens. Like, yes, Twitter can be a cesspool at most of the time, but 1 in every 10 times you will have an actual conversation with someone who is willing to have a logical and rational discussion, which you can't have on a lot of other platforms. A lot of other platforms, you're stuck having these stupid conversations where if you say something that they disagree with, then it'll immediately get censored. And Danny's kind of furious.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to fact check whether or not this is true or not.
About JFK?
I just gotta about Conor McGregor. Some people on Twitter are saying that Conor McGregor has been arrested.
Oh.
On charges of incitement and hate speech. I'm like, wow, that's big. But I'm trying to check if that's real or not. Because apparently that's like some people are saying it's AI. And I'm like, okay, if that's true, that's massive.
Like, he was arrested in 2022.
Yeah, it looks like it may be fake.
It might. If this was actually true,
there's a picture.
Like, yeah,
but I'm like, it's looking like this may be fake. So I'm like, that's why I'm like, I don't want to say
news because of how big of an individual that Conor McGregor is.
Well, and also the big story of like the Irish government, right? So
yeah.
I was like, I want to make sure this is true because I'm like, I don't want to just say like, oh my God, we have breaking news. I'm like, I want to check and see.
Make sure. Well, like, we actually want to make sure that we question the things that we hear, even if they would support our narrative.
Yes.
Because we want to ensure that we're telling the truth, even when it would help to promote us in that manner.
Yeah, and like, especially when things are breaking, you have to be very careful. Because, just because you want to make sure that you're sharing the thing properly.
Yeah.
I was about to like be like, oh my God, I'm like, maybe I'll check this first.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, it looks like it's AI.
Yeah.
Again, this is more reason to believe that like, yeah, AI is going to make
change a lot of things.
The world's so much more different because now I'm like, you get a picture, you're like, wow, he got arrested. Like, oh, is that an AI picture? Like, oh, I think it was. Anyways, sorry to distract. I wanted to make sure that was true, but it looks like it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Well, it is 10:51 here, so this is just kind of how
we
it
have
went
a movie
today.
to watch tomorrow. So
yes, we
we'll have to
do.
make it work.
So for those of us who are in Calgary, we would love if you joined us. We are going to tune into the live stream of Lady Ballers.
Yeah.
And if it's just Danny and I, then maybe we will, like, I don't know, hop onto a Twitter space, like someone else's Twitter space, and just be like, hey, what's going on, guys?
What's up?
Because some of these Twitter spaces are just so much fun to join. Because you can shake some things up, or you can just listen in and, like, there's a lot of people who I'm just like, dang, I have no idea about that stuff. Like, in very specific areas, I'm just like, I'm learning so much from just being involved in the conversation.
Well, Twitter Space is interesting. It's primarily like a phone call. It's like a conference call.
Yeah, it is a conference call that anybody can essentially speak at. In most of these things, like, you are gonna have, like, in some of these spaces, you'll have people that just come to be disruptive.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's why you have a mute button.
Mm-hmm.
But for some of them, it's like, hey, like, let's have an honest discussion. I had one where I was sick one day from work, and I joined one, and I had a 15-minute conversation about Americans' perception of Polyev. I'm like, nifty.
Which I think is much more positive than the Canadians.
Yes.
At least the Canadian media.
Yeah, oh, definitely the Canadian media.
Yeah.
Like, Americans are like, they're like, your guy's pretty cool. And I'm like, American media is just like, Canadian media is like, Polyev is the devil.
Oh, I remember, like, I saw like a clip this morning from like Parliament, and Trudeau was like, it's like, well, like, you know, I'm sure the Polyev is, like, really hurting after the horrible week he had last week. And he was like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, because he thinks, like, the media went after him hard. He's like, well, the media would go after anyone hard, especially when Trudeau is like, like as desperate as he is and all that kind of stuff. Like, Six is like media like people after him. It's like, yeah, the media went after Polyev because they work for Trudeau. So I'm like, yeah, that's gonna work for us. Sorry, buddy. Speaking of treating people that like the Canadian public like they're not idiots, I'm like, well, we're not idiots. We know that you're liars. So I'm like, doesn't work on us.
Yeah.
Doesn't work, bro.
All right.
Well, all right, buddy. Well,
we're going to head out
show
for tonight. So thank you for those who joined us in the chat. Thank you for those who, well, I guess we only had one person join us in the space, and that was before, like, the space died the
Before
first
it
time.
died.
And I was like,
Before Steven
why?
killed it.
I didn't kill it. It just died, and I don't know why.
You must have done something that offended it. It's like, I'm out of here.
It is what it is. I cannot control it. So
yeah,
we will talk to people. So if you want to check out our video content, you can check us out on YouTube, BitChute, and Rumble. You can also check us out on our text platforms at theshrewddudes.com and at Facebook, Gitter, and Twitter. So, Danny, sign us out.
Good night, everybody. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so we are the Shrewd Dudes. We like to fill your heads with lots of data, information, arguments, and good, solid talking points. And our motto, as always, is why be rude and you can be shrewd instead. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you again on Tuesday in the wonderful month of December. And Tuesdays are always exciting. News Day. That's what we just covered, like the news, just straight up. And hope to see you there. We'll hope to see you on the chat.
Yes.
We'll try to be closer to the 8 o'clock.
Yeah, we were a little bit
we
late.
always try to go. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we hope to hear from you again. Have a great night, and as always,